Well, it's a brand new week, and this is how we started off for you. Quite an interesting weekend. Well, Monday is finally here. This is the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakwa, and as always, I do this together with Bernice Abubeido Lanza. We don't take the fact that you allow us into your homes for granted, so thank you for choosing us. Well, coming up, the news, and then after the news, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Brahima, is our guest for the news review. And then we'll get into our big stories for the day. There's a lot we're going to be contemplating on the show this morning by way of the big stories. We'll talk about that situation in Odumasi in the Asante Achim area. And it has to do with two illegal miners who actually lost their lives. Over the weekend, we're bringing you details of that story from the Ashanti region. Well, it's a situation that we can find in many mining communities. Today, we'll be telling you about what exactly happened and what the way forward is to curb such a wanton loss of life. But also coming up, we'll let you in on our latest Hotline documentary, Thirsty Dams. It's not the first time, but this piece by features editor Jojo Komina assesses the impact of government's One Village, One Dam project. We'll bring you details of that, as many of the residents in the areas where these dams have been constructed say they are yet to benefit from these projects. Well, again, today being a Monday, you can expect some safety tips on how to navigate your course on Ghana's roads by way of Drive Safe. That's how the show looks like today. But we can't forget engaging with our special needs students from the University of Ghana. We have a special one with those students with special needs this morning on the show. We've also got a conversation with Mega Mind Concepts. So stick and stay. Let's get interactive. Let's know what your thoughts are in the course of the show via the live stream. And when we activate the phone lines, be sure to call. On that note, let's settle for the news up next. Well, thank you for staying. Time now for the AM News. And in our first story, the New Patriotic Party has condemned content of a leaked tape which captured an unnamed senior police officer and a suspected bigwig of the MPP allegedly plotting the removal of the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare. According to General Secretary Justin Frimpong-Kodia, it will be unfortunate for anyone to link the MPP to the tape because the claims are unsubstantiated. He spoke to Samuel Mbura of our political desk.
It's rather unfortunate that they will make such an unsubstantiated allegation against the New Patriotic Party. To start with, IGP was appointed by His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and the Constitution gives him the power to do so. And I'm not sure when His Excellency was making the appointment, he consulted me as General Secretary or the National Chairman. It is his prerogative. So he has the power to decide if the IGP continues or his appointment could be terminated or if certain appointment could also be given to him. So isn't that here or not there?
So what's your official stance as a party on this tape?
Well, unfortunately, it's something that as a party we condemn it. To start with, it's something that we condemn it as a party. But at the end of the day, you also ask yourself, how did all these things happen? Was it a stage thing? Was it a setup? Who went there to record it? And what was the intention of the person who went to also record it and also leaked it out? You should also ask that question.
So is there a possibility that the party will also conduct its independent investigation to know which party member was involved in that alleged tape?
Well, I don't know which party person you are talking about. And at the end of the day, it does not lie in the purview of the party. How can the party come here and conduct an investigation into it? In what capacity? Tell me, in what capacity?
Because the claim is that MPP people were involved in that plot.
Well, so far as we are aware as a party, we are not involved. We don't know who went there to record it. And I believe the national security, the police service, have all the requisite personnel and resources to do their own investigation.
Do you support the parliamentary inquiry into this tape?
Well, it lies in the purview of Parliament. They have the power to do so. So if in their own wisdom they feel they need to investigate, so be it.
Meanwhile, National Chairman of the MPP, Stephen Intim, denounced the activities of LGBTQI+ in Ghana. He says the party believes in the religious and cultural values that frown against the practice and will not go contrary to such beliefs.
The New Patriotic Party, which I represent as National Chairman, wishes to articulate explicitly, in no uncertain terms, without any bells and whistles, that we have a position on the topic that is making the rounds, not just in Ghana, but across the globe. What is the position of the New Patriotic Party when it comes to LGBTQ? I'm sure most of the people here, if not all, will say that Ghana frowns upon the LGBTQ. Correct me if I'm wrong. Why would I, Stephen and Tim, why would our General Secretary, Justin Frimpong Kudua, why would this able national organizer national third vice chairman and all the men here and also the women here stoop so low and opt for LGBTQ? I want to state emphatically, without any fear of equivocation, that the New Patriotic Party that I chair will never support LGBTQ.
Let's get into our next story now. And residents of Ayopia in the Bongo district in the Upper East region, where President Akufo-Addo first cut a sort for the One Village, One Dam project to commence, says the dam dries up shortly after Christmas. Now, the dams built to aid dry season farming are incapable of retaining enough water and dry up by January every year. They still value the project and want government to bring contractors back to the site to do a better job. Jojo Kobina brings you excerpts of our Hotline documentary titled Thirsty Dams.
With despair in her eyes, Atenga Arongo stares at a dry, shallow dam and contemplates how it would have made her life simple. She counted her eggs long before they hatched. She thought access to water would ensure a boom in her farming business. Her joy has been cut short, and she wants government, as a matter of urgency, to find a solution to the thirsty dry dam.
When the president came, he said he will construct a dam for us. We were excited. He said the water will help us cultivate vegetables during the dry season. Unfortunately, we are unable to farm during the dry season because the dam dries up. There's no water. After Christmas, the dam dries up completely.
Solomon represents the youth here. He had vowed not to travel to southern Ghana for odd jobs. But staying in Bongo without a job is giving him ideas of leaving home. In his estimation, the dams were not properly constructed. The spillway is close to the reservoir, so the water washes away quickly. after the rains.
When the rains comes at once, the water, the speedway is speeding for us, so the water cannot relax for a meantime. So we expected when government came back tomorrow, and so that you expand this place for us, so that we can still make our dry crops, so that we can get what we can eat for us.
He is backed by another peasant farmer.
The embankment is separated from the reservoir that is created to contain the water. And the size of the reservoir too is very small. Where the spillways have also been kept is very close to the reservoir. So little water in the reservoir, which is already small, when the reservoir is full, the rest of the water spills out. So the dams are not able to contain enough water to help us do dry season farming and also water our animals. So that is basically the problem with the dams. Weak embankments, poorly constructed spillways, small reservoirs, or the reservoirs are too small to contain water. So basically they dry up in no time at all. After the rains, it doesn't really take a month or two before you realize that these dams are drying up.
Now, 2 people died after an illegal mining pit they were working in collapsed at Odumase in the Asante Central Municipality of the Ashanti region. The 2 were part of a group of illegal miners working in a concession belonging to the Northern Ashanti Mines Limited. Many of the mining companies' concessions lie unprotected, becoming a haven for dangerous illegal mining joints in the town. Erastus Asaredonko was at the scene of the incident and now reports.
Asante Odumase is known for deep pit illegal mining, eating into age-old mining pits and concessions. Digging beneath homes is a common practice which has so far claimed 1 life. Saturday's tragedy struck beneath these high-tension electric poles. This illegal mining activity within the concession of the Northern Ashanti Mining Limited has claimed 2 lives.
Now, what these illegal miners are doing here is that they use these machines, these chamfan machines. They dig beneath the ground over there, and they bring out the produce here, and they wash them over here, so creating a sludge that winds up beneath this load. So these machines you see here were the ones they were working with. The guys who were down the pit were working inside here, digging beneath the earth here, creating a big hole over there. So they were scooping the raw material full of gold, bringing it up here for washing. So whilst there, this whole earth became very loose. So beneath there, whilst they were digging, it collapsed and came on them, killing 2. 1 escaped unscathed.
It took rescuers hours to excavate the remains of the 2 miners.
I am now boy to me. Yeah, and I want it. I want they will be never Yamasuna at Aichi. A techie basis hours. A started base, my fans a bear night. And soon a started and night to night. And now, yeah, prepare
the money momo.
Oh, boy, I could cry or tip me. Or tip me, Steven.
What do you feel, bear?
Oh, bear 29.
The incident has shocked many, but it will not stop these miners whose colleagues have died from salvaging what is left of the materials they were digging for. Mining in this area perhaps will not stop. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Odumase, Asante Central, Ashanti region.
In our next story, the Ministry of Energy says it is working to popularize the use of electric-powered vehicles in Ghana. Deputy Energy Minister Herbert Krapa says the country has enough excess power to promote the use of these vehicles. He's been speaking at a consultative workshop on electric cars in Cape Coast.
According to Herbert Crapper, the Ministry of Energy is hoping to leverage on the excess power capacity to promote the use of electric cars in Ghana.
Well, as you know, electric vehicles, as the name suggests, is powered by electricity. As a ministry, our responsibility is to ensure that there's enough electricity generated, adequate electricity generated, not only for residential use but for commercial and industrial use as well. And electric vehicles fit directly into the mandate that we have to make sure that even though we have excess capacity, we are looking forward to a time where if all motor users in Ghana, vehicle users in Ghana are using electric vehicles, there's enough electricity to power these vehicles. As it stands, the research that the Energy Commission has done shows that we have capacity to power these vehicles, but you understand that the number of vehicles that we use in the country will continue to grow, and the electricity generation will also continue to grow in that regard. Of course, availability goes with affordability, and that is why we're working under the Renewable Energy Program to ensure that we're introducing more renewable into the mix. The more renewables we introduce into the mix, the more we're able to drive the cost down, and the more sustainable it is as well for the global conversation.
Central Regional Minister Justina Marigodasan was excited that the region has been chosen as one of the areas that's key in pursuit of this agenda. She says the exploration of lithium in the region makes the region pivotal in the scheme of things.
One aspect that made us very happy as a region was the discovery of lithium in our region in large quantities. We know they are now exploring it. And looking at the e-vehicles, then it means that the batteries and other gadgets that are going to be used in the vehicles will be coming from the lithium. So as a region, what we're doing or asking the people in the region to do is for us to come together, sit round table, and then have a suggestion as how we're going to leverage on the lithium that we have in the region, so that even if it's a battery plant or industry that we're going to put up.
Chairman of the Cape Coast Garages, Patrick Kane Kojo Edudonko, called for more support to enable them adapt to the changes that are coming. It's a good thing that's coming, but we feel government always forgets us, and when they talk technical, we are always taken out. When government implemented a free SHS education, initially the technical aspect was not free, but now it's free. If they mean business, they should collaborate with us and even select some of us to go and learn about some of the things associated with electric vehicles.
In the arena, me as a garage chairman, Cape Coast, not me so me cannot abide no so assume more. Buanemum, dear Madame Cans or Baba Fine or dear Quabruchi, Nemu Yakusiano, and Ebe Cancran, Ebeka Kumasi, but Cape Coast as a galagino, as a chairman, Metisu Siano, Ebebua, Niansu Yakusiani Bibiakos.
Now, strengthening the capacity of healthcare students and professionals to meet growing demands for primary healthcare in Ghana has become crucial. A greater part of this involves nurturing potential entrepreneurs to build resilient health ventures in the country. Now, more than 100 primary healthcare workers and tutors from health training institutions are receiving training in health entrepreneurship. There's more in this report.
The program, organized by KNUST Africa Higher Education Health Collaborative in partnership with MasterCard Foundation, is being held simultaneously in 3 regional capitals, including Sunyani, Tamale, and Takrady. The fortnight event, spearheaded by the Health Entrepreneurship pillar of the KNUST Africa Higher Education Health Collaborative, seeks to empower primary health care workers and tutors of nursing and midwifery institutions to nurture potential entrepreneurs to build resilient health ventures in Ghana. Under the health entrepreneurship pillar, 355 trained trainers at 77 KNUST affiliated health training institutions, as well as 560 public-private workers, will be trained with the potential to reach over 24,000 young people during the first phase. Professor Wilberforce Owusu Ansah is the health entrepreneurship pillar lead.
Current one that we have started is targeting at 2 different cohorts. The first cohort, which we call the Entrepreneurship Empowerment TOT for affiliated institutions, focuses on training nursing and midwifery institutions tutors so that they can now provide training to help businesses to be set up by nursing and midwifery students. So the focal point in this regard is to be able to reach out to the nursing institutions and particularly nursing and midwifery students so that we empower them to be able to set up not only any ordinary businesses but scalable businesses, or in our quest to address the emerging and teeming unemployed situation we find ourselves. So dealing with the students directly will be challenging given the budget that you have. So the best approach was to train their tutors so that we can supervise the trainers, their tutors, to be able to train them. The other training program is earmarked, which we call it committee-based TOT for PHC workers. And here again, the focus is to reach out to the public PHC workers dotted across the length and breadth of the country.
The participants were expected of acquiring essential entrepreneurial knowledge to pass on their peers.
So I'm coming for this program to be able to acquire more knowledge on the best way I could use to channel my staffs to have more interest in their community or in the work than traveling abroad.
So what I'm expecting is this training will broaden our knowledge on where we are supposed to invest as managers of the healthcare industry.
To grasp as much as possible all the knowledge base and health entrepreneurship.
Well, that's how we cap off the news on that entrepreneurial note. But stay with us. Up next, we serve you the news review with Suleimana Brahma of the Media Foundation for West Africa. Welcome on the News Review Belt, and we're joined by Suleimana Brahma, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. And we're going to slice and dice the newspapers. But right before we get into that, this segment is always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, they're offering, if you're a man, prostate screening, and if you're a woman, fertility screening for free, gratis. Just make your way to any of their branches, and here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. You can also locate them in Kumasi, Kronuma, here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State, there's Tema Community 22, there is Techiman Hanswa and Siama and Zama. If you'd like to call them, which I suggest you do to make a booking, these are the numbers to call: 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the news review. Monday morning, Mr. Brahma, very good morning to you, sir. All right. So we'll try to get Suleimana Brahma on board as we get into very important matters, salient matters, pertinent to our national life. But I'd like to find out from you. Shoot me a message if you're watching the news review. 2 issues. The first has to do with, well, all of them have to do with the Thanksgiving of the New Patriotic Party's current crop of executives. Now, they marked a year, an anniversary recently around Atomic at that church. And two things they brought up. One had to do with the leaked tape. I mean, you would have heard that General Secretary Justin Frimpong-Kodia, for example, talking about it, saying, I mean, what is the party going to do about it? It doesn't lie in the belly of the party to do anything about it. And that, you know, it is sad that such a thing has happened and it's being whipped up, so to speak, or being lapped up. And the president has the power to appoint and remove the IGP. Now, some of what he said, of course, about appointing and removing the IGP is true. I mean, I interacted with Professor Kwesi Enning of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, and he said for him, I mean, this did not fetter. It didn't put any manacles on Mr. President to say, you know, because of this, you can't. But of course, there is the court of public opinion. There is perception, and that is where the danger is. So you see, we're talking about Mr. President and what he can and cannot do. But when you have a tape like this out there with big wigs within your party, with people within the police system purportedly planning, scheming, in cahoots to oust the IGP because the signals he is giving don't look good, don't bode well for your party, you cannot take that for granted. So while I agree that Mr. President can sack the IGP, and it wouldn't be the first time that would happen, or in fact replace him, we must look at the scope of the matter properly, look at the wide array of consequences that could bring to bear. It also has to do with politics and how we play it. Now, you look at the New Patriotic Party and how it is responding to this leaked tape. Oh, I mean, look at Ambrose Derry, the Interior Minister. It's nothing. It's not real. It's not factual. After which checks had he conducted at the time? So the way we play politics with everything is clearly playing out in this instance. Would the New Patriotic Party, if that party had been in opposition, or if even while in power, it had been seen that maybe the other side or any of the other political parties had been scheming on the back of something similar to this, how would the New Patriotic Party have responded? And there you have it, the hypocrisy of our politics. But there was also talk by the chairman of the party, Stephen Ayesu-Ntim, in terms of the position, so to speak, of the party on LGBTQI++. I found it curious because while in Parliament, the majority side together with the minority side had formed some sort of caucus, there was consensus as far as the bill, the anti-gay bill, is concerned. But in the party, there has been dissent in the past. In fact, that bill going through Parliament faced some hurdles on the back of some comments that had been passed initially, which led to some of the processes and then the hearings in Parliament from different sides and all of that. And of course, infamously, we had Mr. President in that interview talk about it is bound to happen. I mean, these things no one forgets. So, Mr. Ayesu-Ntim, is that the official position of your party, or is it that you are the executive and so you echo this, maybe some sort of echo chamber on behalf of the party, or is it looking a bit murky, which is why this has come to this point? I don't know. But these are just some thoughts I'd like to put out there. You can share what you think with me in the course of this review. But let's now get into the papers, and the Daily Graphic is where I'll be starting off when we have Mr. Brimer join the conversation. Then we shall take it from there. Bank of Ghana adds 7.70 tons of gold to reserves. Of course, we're talking about the gold for oil situation that we've been touting for a while now. There's also Graphic GCB Bank PLC strengthen collaboration. And there's Nation Needs Emergency Energy Plan. That's according to the World Bank. We heard of that Deputy Minister, Herbert Crapper, talking about the fact that we need to use more electric vehicles in the country. Well, that story there as well. On the back page, medical waste treatment plant commissioned in Kumasi. All of those stories making the headlines. So let's get into it. We'll start from page 16. Two of our main stories there, or maybe let me rather start from page, the front page leading to page 3, and then I'll go to page 16. So the nation needs emergency energy plan, and that's a warning from the World Bank. So the World Bank has advised the government to implement an urgent emergency energy action plan to address challenges in the country's energy sector. The World Bank Managing Director in charge of operations, Anne Bierde, who made the call, said the country's problems in the energy sector were very serious and would get worse with debilitating effects on economic growth if not addressed. That's the catch. If not addressed. And that's why some of us have been very concerned about the IPP arrangements and the way forward. We actually need more of these independent power producers. But of course, you cannot do that without the wherewithal. So she also says, once the problems are at the level that Ghana has, if not arrested and addressed with an emergency action plan, things will get worse, and this will cost the state more to keep the energy sector running at a time money is needed for other things. She stated this during an interaction with journalists in Accra last Friday to end her 3-day visit to the country. Ms. Bierde stressed that the emergency energy plan must be comprehensive, robust, and focused on investments in metering, billing, and efficient collection of revenue to ensure a vibrant sector. She underscored the need for the Ministries of Energy, Finance, and Gender and Social Protection to work together to ensure that the implementation of the energy plan was done in a manner that protected vulnerable groups as well. So, a lot of talk about energy. Look, if you, across the world, developing countries tend to be more vulnerable when it comes to energy-related matters. When you look at our trajectory, the range of electrification over the years, over the decades, what, for example, the Rawlings administration added on, may his soul rest in peace, rural electrification had been, very low. We added to this. We brought on subsidies. We took away the subsidies. And now we've got to this point where we're supposedly paying through the nose, for utilities, including electricity. But we've been told that's the way to go. However, having dealt with different shades of Dumso, a bit of it under Rawlings, more of it under Kufuor, some of it under Atta Mills, and the height of it, if you like, under Mahama. And it's being dealt with. I keep saying that it will be unpardonable for us to go back to Dumso. No one lives in reverse. You don't walk backwards, do you? So if you solve a problem and you go back, and this same administration told us time and again, though we know at 2021 we didn't have excess capacity, but they told us right from 2017, excess capacity. What did we pump it into? Now Herbert Krapper, the deputy minister, is saying it is even good because we can harness energy or electricity for electric cars. I don't know whether he's got the memo that we don't have any excess capacity anymore. But whatever it may be, we even need more of these independent power producers. How do we do that? How do we ensure that our energy mix is what will reflect our needs, not just financial needs, but national needs across the spectrum? So these are things I am hoping the sector minister, NAPO, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, is solidly contemplating, because Ghana will not pardon any administration, not just this administration, any administration, if we go back into the days of Dumso. That's the simple point I want to make here. Let me at this point welcome aboard Suleimana Brahima. He's Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. Good morning, Suleimana. I'm sure you may have to unmute. By the way, I have a smock, very similar, in fact, practically the same color as yours this morning. Maybe someday we'll decide to twin on the show if it's a Friday. Welcome aboard. So far, I've spoken about 3 matters. Maybe you could chime in. The first has to do with the first anniversary of the MPP's crop of executive, that is national executives. And the talk by Justin Frimpong Kodria that the leaked tape is really not much, the MPP is not going to investigate anything, that what do they have to investigate? And the reaction generally from the party. Then there's the party chairman, Stephen Ayesu Tim, on LGBTQ, saying that the stance of the party is not for it. But I find that a bit interesting on the back of it is bound to happen by Mr. President, that comment, and comments even in Parliament on the back of the anti-gay bill when it was brought to the fore the first time. I've also just been talking about the World Bank. In fact, their director focusing on energy matters, I believe it's Anne Biarde, says we either get our act together or we're going to be facing some severe challenges. In fact, she says the country's problems in the energy sector are serious and would get worse with debilitating effects. Do you have any thoughts on these matters before we proceed, Suleimana?
Well, Ben, good morning once again. Let me start with the energy sector issues, because I think invariably, if we are into it, it affects literally every aspect of our economy. I am not in that sector, and I have very limited knowledge in the area, but there have been several occasions where I've been part of conversations involving persons that I would say are experts in that area, or at least whose work focus on the energy sector. And if you listen to the analysis, you get scared about what the future holds. It does then appear that, in fact, a lot of the problems that we have in terms of our economic indicators and all of that is because our energy sector is so much in debt. And it appears that over time, governments have played rhetoric over the energy sector challenges. And it's not just previous governments, but this government. Again, like you said, this government came in with the information that, well, the previous government may have even invested in energy generating machinery that, were not basically needed because we have excess capacity. And Dumso, whether we are in Dumso or we are not going back to Dumso, has been one of the issues that especially the Vice President has been saying, even though I would continue to say that in terms of Dumso, it was ended by the Mahama regime. I don't think that the MPP regime has done anything extraordinary to claim credit for ending Dumso. But as I said, they prefer to do gimmicks with the energy sector issues rather than really focusing on the issues. I think that the current energy minister, Napo, is someone that I do have confidence in, but sometimes it's not about the minister, it's about what comes from the top, the powers that be. And I'm just hoping that the powers that be would allow things to work so that eventually we don't get ourselves into the situation that we are all praying to avoid. On the leaked tape, I think there's a lot to it. The IGP is doing the best that he can. Yesterday, I was reading that the folks or the suspects have been arrested in connection with the shooting incident that happened a few weeks or so ago that resulted in the killing of the police officer at the fuel station. And that, I said to myself, was quite impressive because even one of the suspects was arrested in a community in Togo because they had done some collaboration with the Togolese Interpol. And so what we need is an efficient police force that would give us peace, order, security, and stability. And I believe both the NPP and the NDC and all Ghanaians must be interested in that. So if we all believe that the IGP, the current IGP, is doing the best that he can to give us what we need, then any attempts to sort of undermine him is worth investigating. And that is why I believe that all parties must take interest in this, but of course do so without the needless partisanship or politicking that sometimes is introduced.
So briefly, Suleimana, when you look at the rhetoric, right from the Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry, and how he said, this is nothing, right from the start, to Justin Frimpong Kodia saying, you know what, but what do you want us as a party to do? Samuel Mbura of our political desk put that question to him. So what is your party going to do about it? And he said, we have no locus here. What do you want us to do? What investigation? Nothing. But is that posture the right one?
Well, I think as a political party, maybe it's right to say that, I mean, what would they have to investigate? If it's a national security issue, if it's a matter that, you know, because NDC as opposition cannot say that we are investigating. So therefore, can MPP as a party say that we are investigating this? If we do that, then indeed we are getting into what I say we should avoid, which is the partisanship. It shouldn't be an MPP NDC affair. If you read my article that I wrote last week about this development, I said that I was surprised that the NDC would want to relate this into the elections and buy into the whole agenda that an IGP can help a party rig an election. What for me is important is that it didn't just involve one police officer. As far as we are told and we've heard, it involved a number of police officers. We are told one of them is on terminal leave, so just within the next 4 months, he's out of the service. But there are others who may be active in the service going forward. And that is why it is important to investigate. Officers in uniform who believe that what is right to do is to orchestrate for a political party rather than serve, you know, in the interest of the nation and also serve in accordance with the principles of policing. And I think that certainly has to be investigated. And last week or so, I heard Parliament took a decision that they would want to get investigations conducted into the matter. So for political parties, I really don't know what they can do.
Well, and on the issue of LGBT, Stephen Intim, the general, the party's chairman, saying, you know, this is the party's stance. What is it relevant? Is it irrelevant? And the different dynamics at play, the vacillation, you know, was there a need for that?
Well, I
just very briefly on that, so we get into the.
I haven't heard him, but I suppose he's saying that what the party's position is not what is not against the bill.
No, it's not against the bill. Yes, that's right.
The party is for the bill.
Yes.
Well, I think that what a lot of people have been saying, which I endorse, is that we should be quite cautious in the way we are approaching the bill. We shouldn't drive it with emotions. It is important to reflect. And so far, it appears to me, because of the overwhelming support that Ghanaians may have for the bill, or indeed anything that would seek to say, look, we don't want LGBTQ practice in our society. There's a lot of emotional sentiments being expressed in relation to the legislation. What people are saying is, this is a matter that has implications for human rights, and therefore, let us be careful. Let us not push it through with emotions. And of course, the political parties, the individuals, I believe sometimes it's also about, what is it that when I do, I'll get overwhelming support from my people. And so I at this stage, I obviously will not support, will not be surprised that a party like the NPP or NDC would take the position that they are taking, because they will see it as almost suicidal to say that, look, we are against the bill. But like I said, it's a matter that is about human rights, and it's important that we are cautious in the way we approach it and do it devoid of emotions. Maybe we should hasten quite a bit slowly so that we can listen to all sides, we can listen to all the views, even if we are opposed to whatever contrary views that are being expressed. It is important to listen so that at the end, if we're going to have a piece of legislation on this matter, it will be one that indeed is solid, is robust, and doesn't really impact negatively on our society in terms of human rights and all of that.
Thank you so much, Suleimana, for your initial thoughts. Let's get into those other stories. Bank of Ghana adds 7.70 tons of gold to reserves, and the Bank of Ghana has added that number of tons of gold to the country's reserves as at the end of last month. The governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, has stated the measure, which is part of the central bank's domestic gold purchase program, is aimed at increasing gold as the asset cover in the country's reserves to provide additional buffers to help the economy withstand economic shocks. And we're still facing some of those shocks. Now, there's also, there was another story which was meant to be on page 16. Oh, it is, but let me look at other stories then, apart from that one. ECOWAS appoints Baba Kamara to help fight terrorism. He's a former Ghanaian National Security Advisor. And a former Ghanaian National Security Advisor, Baba Kamara, has been appointed as the high-level official by the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS to assist in monitoring the implementation of counter-terrorism efforts and report regularly to the authority. Mr. Kamara is also expected to bring his experience as former National Security Advisor in Ghana and as a former Ghana ambassador to Nigeria, among others, to bear on the Commission and member states to deal decisively with the canker. Of course, the bit about terrorism and the landscape and recent happenings and the unrest in our country and the picture that is painted about Ghana and stemming the tide of same are crucial. So we can only wish him the very best. Of course, he's representing the continent, but also representing us as a people. Any reactions to these two stories, and then we move on?
Well, I would say that's a positive development. At this stage, one of the biggest, certainly the biggest, not actually one of the biggest crisis confronting our region is the issue of instability from the activities of fundamentalists and terrorists and all of that. And the ECOWAS has a major role to play. At this stage, with this appointment, what I would say is that Ghana as a country, in terms of our representation at ECOWAS, is at the forefront, because within ECOWAS, it is the division that is in charge of political affairs, peace and security, that is at the forefront of this. And remember, the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security is Dr. Musa Fatao, who is a Ghanaian. So at that level, in terms of the administrative level, Ghana is at the forefront. And now we have a Ghanaian who has also been appointed to lead the effort as a high-level official. But let me also add that I think there must be something unique about Ghana, because if you know, His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers is also the AU envoy on silencing the guns in Africa. So at this critical moment, it is Ghanaians who are on the front lines.
The momentum is with us, eh?
Exactly. And we need to really give them all the support, because I think it is both a recognition, a privilege, and something that we really have to give them the support in order for them to succeed, because their success would also reflect on us as a nation.
For sure it will. Now, the final newspaper is next, and then we'll get into the Daily Guide quickly. Mining as a catalyst for industrialization is focus of our policies. That's according to Samuel Abujanapo, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. I will resource grassroots to lead 2024 campaign. That's according to Dr. Kotu Afriye. Presidential Special Initiatives is the brainchild of Alan. That's according to Nyama. And the other day, of course, we've had quite a conversation on this, but Ghana gets first ultra-modern medical waste treatment plant. I brought you that story from the Daily Graphic. And MPP is against LGBTQI+. Intim declares and warns NDC to stop tagging MPP with it. And that we've also looked at. So let's quickly look at the stories on pages 4 and 8. And you've already made mention of the Ablikuma bullion van robbery and the suspects that have been arrested, so I'll not go there again. But the Presidential Special Initiatives introduced in the erstwhile Kufuor government is the brainchild of Alan Tremating, Mr. Richard Nyama, Deputy Spokesperson, I beg your pardon, of MPP flag bearer hopeful Alan Tremating has said. So he is touting Alan Tremating as the brain behind that policy. Of course, nowadays, a lot of those contesting are laying claim or staking claim to a number of things they have done in the party. And that is what is being said about Alan Chemating. Let me very quickly go to the other story. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Samuel Abujinapo, says policies and programs being implemented by government aims to transform mining into a catalyst for industrialization. He said government remained committed to working with the private sector to adopt strategies to achieve this noble objective. But for me, when I look at our mining in this country, now we're talking lithium and all of that, I shudder, because what we've done with what we have is very cold comfort when it comes to managing our resources, especially in terms of mining. Quick reactions?
Well, the mining sector would perhaps for a long time remain a critical sector for our economy and for the economic survival of many across the country. Now, I know if you take Upper East, for example, it has now become one of the biggest mining hubs, if not the biggest in the country today. Upper West is about same. You talk about the lithium, which is also building up. The problem is how we have managed the sector over the years. And as you know, the other day somebody was telling me about the Black Volta River, or is it a White Volta, and the fact that you go and look at it now and you see obvious pollution at high levels. We know about the Ankobra story, we know about the Pra story, and so on. So it appears that the more we are mining, the more we are killing our rivers, the more we are destroying our environment. And in the end, we may have the money, but the money may not be able to help us survive, because the environmental devastation and its consequences in terms of health would be something that is really unbearable. And I don't think that any amount from gold would help us come out of such a devastation. So I believe that our government must really work on this issue, because over time, all we've been hearing is the rhetoric, mining policy, mining this, mining that. The Minerals Commission, I believe, is doing the best that it can. But sometimes, as I said, it's also powers from above. And so it is an area that we really have to continue to be genuine in the policy issues that we raise, and truly and honestly implement policies in fair ways, so that we can save our environment even as we try to exploit the natural endowment that God has given us.
Let's look at these two papers as we get ready to wrap. The Daily Guide, Educhum endorses Bawumia. Yes, the Education Minister, Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, has endorsed the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. And there's also 4 arrested over Ablekuma cop killing. Bank of Ghana increases gold reserves. Forest guard goes missing, and 2 perish in mining pit. Suleimana, you could link it to those 2. You know that story from the Ashanti region where 2 people, there were 3, but 1 was very quick, escaped, but 2, unfortunately, losing their lives, tied to what you were talking about on the Volta in terms of illegal mining. But let's look at this one on page 3. So Dr. Yawase Educhum, Minister of Education and Member of Parliament for the Ashanti Region's Bosomtwe constituency, has endorsed Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia for the New Patriotic Party's flag bearership. Dr. Educhum's endorsement comes ahead of a special college election to choose 5 of the 10 aspirants for the ruling party's presidential primary in November this year. I'd like to find out from you, Suleimana, what do you make of big wigs in the party throwing their weight between or behind this candidate or that candidate on the back of what was said initially about, not showing face, so to speak, for this or that candidate? And what could it mean when the expression I want to use, when all is said and done and one becomes leader of the party, what could this mean in terms of disunity or unity for the MPP?
Well, many have said that what is going to be the biggest problem for the MPP is how they get together post-Congress and post the election of flag bearer. Initially, there was that directive or policy that people should not pitch camp, or at least people should not indicate where they are in order to ensure that there's stability and unity within the party. But at this stage, it is no secret that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is the establishment candidate. He is the candidate for the, the establishment, the Kufuor, the government machinery is behind Dr. Bawumia, and that is not a secret. Now, the other thing is that as a result of that, it's almost like if you are an appointee of the president, almost like you must fall in line. I've seen Peter Amewu, Minister for Railways Development, obviously campaigning for Alan, but that's a very rare one. The majority of appointees and those in power, those in parliament, are obviously supporting Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. The other thing is that there are also those who are supporting particular candidates with a view that if the candidate should get elected, then they can be considered for the running mate position. And again, on this matter, it is no secret that Dr. Educhum is one of those who is sort of desperately seeking to position himself for the running mate slot in the event that Dr. Bawumia wins. In fact, if you do a deeper analysis, you would even get to the point where you realize that certain churches are also pitching camps to ensure that in the event this person or that person wins,
they'll also get their share.
Their church member will be pushed to become the running mate. And in fact, I am told that Dr. Educhum is one of those that is being backed by a particular church. I wouldn't name that, but I'm sure at some point we would bring all those things out.
I see.
So it's not surprising to see ministers like him saying they support Dr. Bawumia, because at this stage it appears that the momentum is for Bawumia.
Okay.
I don't know whether that would mean that he would win or he would not win.
Mr. Brahma, we have to go. There's no peace without justice in Sudan. That's on page 5 of the paper. And there's also the Ghanaian publisher, Battle Against Streetism, Supreme Court to give verdict in November. That's something that we'll definitely have more time to talk about later. But Mr. Brahma, thank you so much for joining the conversation this morning.
Thank you so much. Have a great week.
I wish you same. I have to do this one for our very own Kofi J of Research Desk. And he says, it's my good friend's birthday. The name is Lance Corporal Amwa Dominic. Lance Corporal Dominic Amwa. You are a military officer with the 64 Infantry Regiment in Burma Camp. Your good friend Kofi Ajay is celebrating you this morning. Lance Corporal Dominic Amwa. Of course, this segment always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They are offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. Locate them here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi Kronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. Takrady Anaji State Tema Committee 22. Techiman Hanswe and Siamanzima. You can call them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Sports is up next.
It's another Monday. Thank you very much for joining us on the AM show. Hi, I'm Gary L. Smith with the sport. Over the weekend, Black Queens coach Nora Hoptill praised her side's emphatic win over Guinea in the 2024 Olympic qualifiers. Now, Ghana emerged 3-0 winners in the first leg of the encounter in Conakry. Hoptill was satisfied with the victory, but added her side could have won by a bigger margin.
To travel home to Ghana, and of course having the second leg at home there.
Love the way she says Mother Ghana, yeah? Anyway, moving on, and technical director of the Ghana Football Association says the realization of the national football philosophy is highly dependent on government. The initiative was designed to ensure an attractive and unique style of play of the national teams and was launched last week. Now, Bernard Lepere, who is the technical director, wants government to lay out a plan which involves schools where footballers will grasp the understanding of the policy from a very young age.
Oh, we have not the best surface, but we have to do the best out of it. So it's not important where you train, it's important how you train. Sometimes you get better technical players if you train on bad surfaces because your movement and your coordination is better. Everything depends how much you train and how you train. Nothing more. They need much more training sessions, much more repetitions, much more training in tight spaces that you can make faster decisions, speed of reaction, speed of action, speed of thought. This we have to take care of. I cannot ensure this. This has to be ensured by politicians. I don't know what you expect from me. I understand, but I want to always have different environment, a different society, a different way to handle things. I cannot handle things here like in Germany, and I know this. So we have to adapt to situations and change it slowly how it's possible.
That was in Accra. In Kumasi, the 2023 MTN Ashanti Fest semi-final will see Santase, Dechemso, Edriso and Kwadaso compete for the hefty cash prize at stake after they book their slots in that area of the competition. The quarterfinal stage of the competition saw the teams play to the excitement of fans at the Dechemso Otumfuo Park over 2 days, with the first set of games starting on the 13th of July. Here are the highlights. That's it for the sport. You can get more on myjoyonline.com. Throughout the day, we have updates on various things on our socials, the Joy Sports. team. Thank you very much. The AM show continues.
Welcome aboard Drive Safe, the segment where we get to tell you all about driving and staying safe, as well as ensuring that fellow road users also stay safe. How do you do that? When you drive safe, then you ensure that everybody is safe, everybody is secure, once we're doing the right things on the road. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. This is Drive Safe. I am here at Top Tech Transport and Logistics with their CEO, Cecil Gabra. Hello, Cecil.
Hi, Ben.
It's been a while.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I think this time we can shake hands. Are you still scared?
We are not using masks, so we can. It's no longer mandatory, so we might as well shake hands. I hope you've been well.
Yes. I've been well, very well.
Right.
Just managing with every situation that comes across, whether you like it or not.
I can see that. Well, today we're discussing the causes of road crashes. We started 2022, and in the first quarter, you should see the figures we are getting. Not as high as last year, but close. We're still in the thick of a lot of road accidents. What are the causes, and how do we prevent some of those things? You'll be finding out right after this. But like we usually do, we get into our other bits. So you think you know? Are you sure? Let's check out today's road sign and find out just how much you know. All right, so at the tail end of today's segment, we'll find out what that road sign represents. But let me get back to Cecil Gabra. We're exploring the causes of road crashes. And I want us to start from the angle of, I know the Okada situation has become something else now. There are new arrangements for a lot of them. But motorcycles and tricycles, I'll share with you a story. Where I come from, practically every day, you would see at dawn motorcycles, tricycles, especially the tricycles, the ones that carry all kinds of things, including rubbish and the rest. And at dawn, they are moving without any light. So it means if you are not watching carefully, or if your light is not up, you will not spot them before you realize, accident. Let's get into some of the causes of road crashes.
Definitely what you're saying is very true. But before I tackle that issue, I just want everybody to know that when we talk about road crashes is not an issue where you always blame the driver, right? But then 90% of accidents that we're talking about comes from we human beings, 90%. 5% is caused by the engineering of the roads. I mean, we always
have bad roads.
Precisely, or maybe sharp curves or something has gone wrong on the road. Okay, you don't blame it on it. Another 5% goes to mechanical errors. That is, errors on the vehicles, errors on maybe motorbikes and so on could cause those.
Your brakes fail you.
Precisely, but that is only 5%. But the major issue is 90% of the accidents are caused by you and I, human beings. Okay, so if you want us to talk about Okada, let's talk about the Okada issue today. I'm talking about motor riders, tricycles, and bicycles.
So when you talk about motorbike riders, all of them, not just Okada.
Yes.
Not just those who are doing it commercially. It also includes private users of motorbike.
Private users, right. Let me just, let's just sum it up.
We're lumping all of them
precisely.
together. Right.
Let me start from bicycles. When I was a little boy, right, 6 o'clock, you cannot ride your bicycle without light.
6 p.m.
Yes, 6 p.m. It's a law. It's still there. The Airline 2180 addresses it. That don't ride when the weather changes. Okay, that's to done. Okay, so 6 o'clock now. you'll realize that many people are riding bicycles without lights. That makes it very dangerous. I live off the Spintex Road and I see a lot of accidents almost every evening, because if somebody is riding, he sees you, you cannot see him. Right. I want the law enforcers to add that to it now. And then first of all, I think we need to sound a warning to all the bicycle users that you cannot use your bicycle if you don't have lights in the evening.
But this is common knowledge, but it appears people still take the law into their own hands. You don't need to know LI 2180 to know that
Precisely.
when you are riding at that time, because visibility is so poor, you should have your light on. If you don't have your light on, you expose yourself.
You're very right, Ben. Try and have a chat with those bicycle riders, and then you'll listen to what they'll tell you. You have the greatest insults in your life. Right.
Have you attempted speaking?
Oh, I have several times, because, I mean, even last night it happened just right in front of me. Somebody was crossing me, riding a motorbike when I was just about joining the sprinters. And then this is it. Right. Motor riders are doing it. They are riding without lights in the evening. Tricycles are doing it. And then talking about motor riders, I feel when we do the statistics now, the issue of motor riders in accidents may come down, because most of them are no longer using it for the usual Okada that we talk about. And when I say Okada, they have a pillion rider behind them. No, now
that is conveying people.
Yes, they are not conveying people. Now they have changed, and then thanks be to companies that are employing riders to be dispatch riders, where you have their bag behind them and they are going to, dispatch. That is fine. But again, they don't think about the road regulations. When they see the red lights, I have pictures, I have videos, and then you see out of about 20 motor riders, only 2 will wait for the green light.
But in that specific instance, I'll bring in the law enforcers themselves, police officers. I mean, I recall only recently, a few days ago, I was at, how would I reference, the traffic light before you cross to, what was the name of this place? You know, when you leave the multimedia group, you take the Atenka and trying to connect from Abeka Junction to the N1. You see the police training school. The police
Tesano.
Tesano, that's the name. The traffic light before you get to the Tesano, training school. A police officer comes, so this is what happened. Some motor riders come and stop because they've seen the police officer come there. They don't want to get into trouble. It's still red. The police officer only stopped because some people were coming from the other end. Once there were no people coming, though we were still red, he went through and the others followed him.
Yeah, so that is it.
So, I mean...
So if the law enforcer is doing the wrong thing...
Exactly.
And that also comes to the issue where you find a law enforcer driving in the middle of the road.
Right.
Right. He's using his private car. He's wearing his uniform, whether it is customs, whether it is immigration. They feel they have the right of way. And that is so bad. So if you are doing so, others will also emulate your example and do similar, which is so bad. But talking about motor riders, I think if we have all of them obeying the traffic regulations, that's the lights like we see in Togo, right? We're going to go a long way to reduce the crashes on them, because at the moment, just like you and I know, statistics on motor riders crashes is still on the high. Rather, commercial vehicles are on the low.
Right.
Right, and then something must be done immediately, and this goes to our law enforcers that we need to. And I always talk about, and I said it on your sister station, that we need proper enforcement. If the police cannot do it all, we need to borrow the military police. I've said it several times. Okay, that's the red cap guys. They should team up. What are we looking at? We are looking at one goal to reduce the crashes and make sure that human lives are saved. That is what we're looking at. So motor riders who are not using their lights, tricycles and bicycles, my major concern is bicycles, must be arrested. The laws are there.
Okay, so that is the first point we're going to be focusing on, and that has to do with these riders, all of them together. motorbike riders, whether commercial or private, bicycle riders, tricycle riders. The tricycles are also dangerous. They're always trying to, get ahead of you, cut corners, and sometimes, and maybe in our next segment, we'll talk about how sometimes they create or cause accidents because of the slow nature. They are carrying so much, it leaves a lot of people frustrated. You try to, overtake them, and it's another wahala. But that will be for our next segment. Thank you so much, Cecil.
You're very most welcome.
All right. We're wrapping today with, so you think we started with our question for the day. Do you know this road signal? Well, let's find out whether you got the answer correct. And on that note, if you didn't know, now you know. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you for joining us on Drive Safe. Have a great day.
Santiachim Odumase is known for deep pit illegal mining, eating into age-old mining pits and concessions. Digging beneath homes is a common practice which has so far claimed one life. Saturday's tragedy struck beneath these high-tension electric poles. This illegal mining activity within the concession of the Northern Ashanti Mining Limited has claimed 2 lives.
Now, what these illegal miners are doing here is that they use these machines, these chamfan machines. They dig beneath the ground over there, and they bring out the produce here, and they wash them over here, so creating a sludge that winds up beneath this load. So these machines you see here were the ones they were working with. The guys who were down the pit were working inside here, digging beneath the earth here, creating a big hole over there. So they were scooping the raw material full of gold, bringing it up here for washing. So whilst there, this whole earth became very loose. So beneath there, whilst they were digging, it collapsed and came on them, killing 2. 1 escaped unscathed.
It took rescuers hours to excavate the remains of the 2 miners.
I am now boy to me, yeah, and I hold it. I hold it, will be never Yamasuna at Aichi. A techie basis hours. I started best, my fan said bear night. In Suno, started and night to night. And now, yeah, prepare the money momo. Oh, boy, Bako cried or Tibemi, or Tibemi, Steven. Oh, bear 29.
The incident has shocked many, but it will not stop these miners whose colleagues have died from salvaging what is left of the materials they were digging for. Mining in this area perhaps will not stop. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Odumase, Asantiachem Central, Ashanti region.
Welcome back on the AM show, and of course, like we hinted at the start of the show, and as you have seen, that report by my colleague Erastus Asaredonko, we're getting into that issue of 2 people who died after an illegal mining pit they were working in collapsed atop them in Odumase in the Asante Achim Central Municipality of the Ashanti region. Now, the two were part of a group of illegal miners working in a concession belonging to the Northern Ashanti Mines Limited. Now, we do know that many of the mining companies' concessions lie unprotected, making them a haven for dangerous illegal mining joints in the town. Well, joining us for a conversation on that matter, we have Robert Kwache. He is MCE Asante Achim Central, Robert Kwache. We also have Erastus Asare-Donko, the man on the beat. He is assisting editor at Love FM. He joins the conversation. I'll start with you, Erastus Asare-Donko. You've been on the ground, so I just want you to quickly give me an update on the situation. Then I'll interact with the MCE and come back to you. But what is the latest that you can report? I noticed that a lot of people trooped to the mining site on the day, some just holding themselves with sadness. What can you report now?
Well, so immediately after they scooped up the bodies of the two with the excavator, many of the people who had gathered there, hundreds of them, left. They followed, as you can see in the footage, they followed the bodies to where they were going to keep them. And with them, all the miners who had gathered in there. But interesting enough, we waited for a while to find out what was going to happen, whether they were going to return. And indeed, we were positive. Some of them came back, the miners. One of them who was working with the other three in the pit was there. They were scooping the material they had gathered from the pit because they claimed people would steal them. So they were gathering them. Some of them were putting padlocks to these champagne machines you see in a shot there and telling me that they will be back the following day to work. In fact, some even told us that once people have died in that pit, the gold will surface even more the following day, so they will come back.
This is some sort of belief that they have, so sort of a sacrifice, and I mean, it's disgusting to even think of it, but that's the way they are thinking.
Yeah. I tell you, this belief is shared across Ghana, wherever there is mining. It will shock you to know that in some areas, people have died. They have buried them without even reporting. And they believe that once you die, on there is a sacrifice. And the gold is some form of deity. And so when people die and blood is washed into the pits over there, then the gold surfaces more. But to continue, the Odumase deep pit mining is a complex saga. Very complex. Where they are mining currently, you could see the high tension poles. Some of them are digging even close to the high tension electric poles over there. They can dig almost everywhere. They are digging beneath homes. They are digging along road lines. Wherever they think the gold has surfaced, they start digging. And it did not start today. It's an age-old problem. It has continued until today. So I must say that many parts of Odumase is hanging by a thread, just waiting to collapse. And I asked the Northern Ashanti Mines Limited, who are currently concession owners, that why are you not protecting your concession? There are age-old shafts abandoned. The miners are using this to enter the ground and dig beneath homes and tunnels and other things. They are not protected. This particular mining area is just a walking distance from the residential area of the Northern Ashanti Mines Limited. Why is it not protected? There is an old, very deep pit, open. It's called Kumadusia because when we were growing up, we heard the stories about how some 60 miners, died in that pit. It's uncovered, it's very deep. Some of the miners have found their way in there and they are mining. It's unprotected. So why is the company not protecting its zones, its concession? And why are miners allowed to
continue to mine and dig almost everywhere? And the answer is simple. Every member of the community in there embraces this type of mining. They say they take their livelihood from there. Even when we go in there to report, like this one, some of them were very hostile towards us because they believe that once we put the story out there, people will come after them and they will stop mining. And so they don't need any journalist or camera covering some of these things in there. So it tells you how the entire community embraces the illegal act and nobody wants to stop it. Even when it is fatal, it's affecting, it's dangerous, it's affecting their very existence, their living quarters in these areas.
I'll come back to you because then it raises the question as well about unemployment. But it's not only unemployment, because there are some who may even get decent employment, but because they've been exposed to the sort of gains they make from galamsey, they wouldn't even want to go back to that. I mean, we're told that sometimes in days what they earn would be someone's monthly or 2-3 months salary. That is one. And then we'll talk about the economy of Odumase and finally look at, just the next string of questions I'll be throwing to you when I come back to you. We know there was a third person who survived life-threatening injury and was hospitalized. When I come back to you, Erastus, I want us to look at that. But let me bring in Robert Kwache. He is MC Asante Achem Central. A very good morning to you, Mr. Kwache. Hello?
Good morning, sir. Hello. Good morning, sir.
Yes. It's really good to have you. We're grateful that you've decided to speak to us this morning. How did you receive the news of this happening? I mean, it's not the first because, like we know, mining, there's a lot of mining going on in that area. But how did you receive the news?
Yeah, in fact, it was shocking. It was shocking in the sense that where the incident happened falls within or Northern Ashanti Mining Concession. And we are aware of a lot of abandoned pits within that concession. And several efforts have been made by the regulatory bodies within this municipality. I'm talking about the Minerals Commission, the Environmental Agent, EPA, and all these people. We also have a district mining committee who have been on them severally to make sure that such abandoned pits within their concession are covered. They've made some effort doing that. But what shocks me is that they have security men. I don't see how they allow them to penetrate to go into such pits and work. And we also know that it's raining. That once it starts raining, you know what happens to the soil. Because these people are also doing it illegally, these safety measures and other things are not considered. And that has resulted into this situation. It is very, very worrying. And it's very, very, very worrying. So it wasn't a very good news to me. That when it happened, I wasn't around. I was at Keck campus and I heard this information and asked the police and the NADMO to be on site and find ways of excavating these dead ones. So it was very, very, very shocking.
Do you think Northern Ashanti Mines, in a way, has been irresponsible and some of these deaths we're seeing are a part of their irresponsibility? Here is why I ask the question. These young men shouldn't be there in the first place. But if they are not policing their concession well, which will definitely attract some of these galamseyers, what do you have to say about maybe what responsibility they also bear?
Yes, this is what I'm saying. In fact, the law states that if you have a concession, it's your responsibility to protect it. After all, like I'm telling you, if even they are finding it difficult to, prevent illegal miners into their concession, the abandoned pits, there should be several efforts to cover them, so that if they come, they may not get a place to go and do this work. That's why I am saying that in a way, I think that they have to be up and doing. This concession has been there years. All we hear is that today they will come and it has been changing of names. If they have been doing active work and that they have started employing some people, I think that the safety measures and all these things will be put in place, and majority of the people will be working in the mines. So the Northern Ashanti mines must also be up and doing, so that some of these issues that we are experiencing, we may not be experiencing it. In fact, it is sad and very, very, very worrying.
It is sad and worrying, but as MCE, I don't know for how long you've been the municipal chief executive, but I'm sure you know that it's one of the mainstays of that area in terms of your economy. And some would say partly it's also because of unemployment, while others will be quick to tell you that some of these people, even if you give them gainful employment, they will still go back to the pits because they earn a lot more money from there. So how much of a contributory factor is unemployment, especially among the youth? And how do you find that situation? It's a part of the economy.
Yes, I understand that, yes, people must work, and that mining, you bear with me that our government is not preventing people from mining, but he's talking about responsible mining. Several efforts have been made by the municipal assembly.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. These are illegal miners.
Yes,
these are illegal.
Yes, and this is what I'm saying, that yes, several efforts have been made by my government. Like I told you, he is not against mining, but he's against illegal mining. Several efforts have been made. The municipal assembly, together with the district mining committee, is making every effort to make sure that we have a discussion with the Northern Ashanti mine, so that part of their concession will be ceded to the community for this community mining. Efforts are being made. We have talked to the community, but like I'm telling you, whilst we are making an effort to make sure that if it is because of unemployment, that's why people are doing all these things, if it is because of that, we are of the view that when we are able to get a section of the concession for them for community mining, where safety measures will be put in place, these situations can be avoided. We are making all these efforts, but in as much as we are making these efforts, this is what I'm saying, the Northern Ashanti mines must also do well to sort of protect their concession, make sure that these abandoned pits, they will not allow people to get into it. Even if they are finding financial difficulties to, do reclaim that such pits, I think that they can put some safety measures around these pits that are within their concession, so that when the boys get there, they will get to know that working there is dangerous. So this is the situation.
Are you, as MCE, and that means you are also in charge of the MUSEC, the Municipal Security Council at that level, are you going to directly engage Northern Ashanti mining? Because you may say that from the top, yes, but in terms of security in that area, you are the chief. What are you going to do? Are you going to engage them personally?
In fact, we have engaged them severally.
When was the last time? When was the last time?
I think last 2 weeks we had a meeting with them, the MUSEC and the Northern Ashanti mines, because when it starts raining like this, we do experience some of these things. It started like, I've been in power for this September, then I'll be getting 2 years. So I know the situation that do happen around there. So we are engaging them, telling them that once it is raining and the way these illegal miners are finding every possible means with, they should be out there doing and make sure that such things are not going to happen. So we do engage them. Sometimes, in fact, when I assume office, some of them have been prosecuted. We send some of them, those that are doing illegal, just to serve as a deterrent to them. But like I am telling you, fighting them is not all that easy. This involves so many things that I will not want to talk about it. But we are making every effort to make sure that such things do not happen.
Now, in terms of the Galamseyers, you've also had interactions with them, and you say it's not so simple. I can understand. It's a convoluted, very complex situation. But I looked at the crowd that popped up there, people, men, women, some even pretty young, coming to watch what was happening. And then the bodies were found. Then, they all dispersed, going wherever, to the hospital or what followed. What have been your interactions with those young people? Obviously, they are also in the thick of this illegal mining. What are you going to be sharing with them in terms of the real dangers? Because I am sure some of those there, there would be family, sisters, brothers, wives, girlfriends, or whatever there. I see a certain woman. If you watch closely, you would see her. she was just, snapping her fingers in grief. And then when the bodies were excavated, brought up, she just let herself on the floor. These are people who see the effect of the mining, yet they know that their siblings, their family members, friends are into it. I mean, what do we do?
But continuously, we do engage these communities where these mining activities keep going on. We do engage them regularly, let them see the dangers ahead. I am sure that they have all witnessed what has happened. I am not sure they want to see their relatives, their friends, families dying in this way. They are not happy with it. And this is the only thing we can use to advise them to refrain from it, in as much as we are making every effort to get a place for them to do regular mining. They should understand and see the dangers. Yes, it is true that probably you are not working and you may need some money to, earn a living. But if you want to go in this way to get money, you must also know the dangers ahead of it on your own. So we keep engaging them, advising them to, sort of find the way until we make proper arrangements, get a place for them. I remember my predecessor, the one I came to succeed, worked her way through, and they were able to secure a place for them to do a community mining. And they were not experiencing this kind of thing. So we keep advising them, we keep telling them to wait until the right things are done. And I'll come back to the Northern Ashanti mines as you raise these issues. I know now they are making every effort. They have given a promise that they will do everything possible so that by the close of the year, they will start active mining, where I am sure they can also employ some people. So this is the situation. And like I'm telling you, it's not all that easy. But we are doing whatever we have to do to make sure that sanity is prevailed.
Before you go, two quick questions for you. One would be whether you have seen the third person who was in a critical state and was taken to hospital, and whether you know the state of that person. But also crucial to this conversation, you are like the president in your municipality as an MCE. Wouldn't you lay the blame also at your doorstep and your government's doorstep? Two things to look at: unemployment, which has pushed a lot of the youth into these activities, and secondly, Northern Ashanti mining. They are supposed to be doing ABC. They are rather doing XYZ in this instance, pertaining to manning their concession. The right thing has not been done for a long period of time. If you have been at post for 2 years and within this period they've still not complied, someone should have clamped down on that, ensuring that they do the right thing. It has not been done, and we keep losing lives. Those two areas. What is your reaction? Will you accept the blame?
Well, I like if you are following the conversation that you and I are having, I've made you know several efforts that myself and then the mining community have.
I get you, Mr. Kwache, but what is effort without results?
Yes. No, had it not been these efforts that we have made, probably would have been, recording number of problems like we are seeing now. So effort has been made. Now the agencies, when the first thing happened, the Minerals Commission and all this is okay. We had a meeting with Northern Ashanti Mines, and like I told you, I am sure they are also making the needed efforts to make sure that these things will not be, repeated. But the regulatory bodies are there. The regulatory bodies who are supposed to, help the government, assist us, they have been set to, see some of these things being done. And I think actions should be taken. Actions should be taken. I am sure those things that have happened before, what they were supposed to do, tell the Northern Ashanti Mines, they did it. You also said, am I not going to take the blame? You were connecting it to unemployment. In fact, like I have told you, the only thing the government can do is, like I told you, that we seed a portion, look for a portion of the concession for the community to do regularized mining, where they will put in safety measures and all these things, so that those who are interested in doing this kind of work will go to the regularized place and do the job. So I won't take the blame, because we have not, relaxed. We are making every effort to make sure that this situation is resolved.
And how about the last miner?
The third person that you asked. Yes, yesterday I visited him and the condition is good.
Which hospital is he in?
Stewards Hospital.
Okay, and the situation is better now, right?
Sure.
Mr. Kwache, just hold for me briefly. I'll come back to you, and then we'll wrap the conversation from your end. But Erastus, so I posed a number of questions to you before I left. I wanted to know what you knew also about this third person and the economy of Odumase and what this means to them. You know, you were talking about the fact that someone had died, and unfortunately, some were saying that, look, this was rather going to be a sacrifice and there would be more gold in the area. I want us to get deeper into that because it talks about a much more severe problem. The people don't even understand what is happening, do they? Hello, Erastus?
Yes, they understand what is happening very well. They are well aware of the consequences. Death in illegal mining sectors, to them, though they will grieve about it, is nothing. You die today, the work continues the same minute, and you see those people scooping the materials they have dug from the earth and carrying them away. They are more concerned about when to mine again, more than somebody who has just died. Though, yes, visibly you could see that they are distraught. They are hurt, they are sad. But gold is such a funny thing. It's like a curse. You see them, they will come back tomorrow and it's as if nothing has happened and they will be digging as usual. But my problem here is with, you know, in every community, in every district, the district assembly itself has some committees that are supposed to monitor mining. We also have the Minerals Commission with a center in Konongo. And you ask yourself, what are they doing? They are mute. They just sit because no regulation whatsoever. When you go to Odumase and you see how haphazard mining is done, digging almost everywhere, where you see it's under high tension electric poles and they can dig beneath it for it to collapse. And people will keep watching. You go to the Odumase community itself, you see buildings that are currently there and they are sinking. You see the marks around the building, you could see the cracks deep going down, and you know that they are sinking. In the roundabout, there's a building there, nicely roofed. When you go in there, it's not a residential facility, it's a mining house. And it's sinking. And it's there. Who is going to talk about it? Who is going to stop it? Because every family, every institution, every person is connected somehow to what is going on there. They benefit from it. Police, Minerals Commission, whatever, NADMO. You listen to the ground and you see how people.
You're saying all these people have their finger in the pie, Erastus. You're saying all these people have their finger in the pie.
That's what they tell you on the ground. We'll be standing there and people will come and whisper in your ear. The one you are standing with, he has a concession here, he has a concession there. And so it's not shocking that you cannot solve this problem, because if you try to solve it in one way or the other, you become the enemy of the people, because that is their mainstay. What happened to the Konongo Odumase that we knew, where young people were going into apprenticeship, where young people were going into very safe businesses? When the mines was thriving under Obinmasi Gold Mines, Owari Mines, and subsequent companies, it was regulated. The whole area was protected with security manning the area. People were doing fantastic jobs to earn income. Now, all that they understand is that we have to mine. But mining is not the only livelihood in the area. So the problem in Odumase, it's like people seeing a solution sitting in the middle, and they are going around it. around it and searching for clues. Meanwhile, the solution is sitting there. We all know that this is the solution. You have to demolish buildings. You have to take action. You have to do this. But it affects the core of politics and the very people who are supposed to regulate it. And so nobody dare touch that particular solution.
Before you tell me about the third person and what maybe you have gathered by way of information, it just hit me. You've covered a lot of these stories, Erastus. In terms of your own personal count now, about how many of these stories have you covered where miners, whether up north, and people don't know that up north there's a lot of mining going on there in the northern belt of our country, but up north or down south, you have had to follow stories where people have lost their lives. I just want us to do a simple count, maybe, if you can just off the top of your head. It would give context to it if, let's say, you've covered this number of stories with X number of people. Just imagine generally what the numbers would be that we are losing. And even a lot of them are not even reported.
Let me give you a simple count I did on the internet. When I was doing the extraction for gold, I wanted to get an idea of how many children have drowned in Galamsey pits. And so the reported issues online alone, I got 30 children who have drowned in Galamsey pits. Now, those that I have covered, I can tell you, I've lost count. So far, the ones that I can recall immediately alone, I can count. Konongo alone, I've covered 3. Petrensa, I covered 1 where a child drowned in a pit over there. Another mine collapsed in that particular area, claimed, I think, 4 lives or so. And when you add these 2, you're talking about 7 in Kolongo alone. I've covered some in other areas. When you put them together, about 20 in the past year. But there are more. There are more than that. We reported a number of mine collapses across the country, plenty of them. What I'm saying is that the way and manner that people are mining at Udumase is so dangerous that this is just the tip of the iceberg. I told the MC, Mr. Kwachi, I've told him before, I've told him that the more we continue to wait, one day we'll wake up and a large area of Udumase has sunk to the ground and a number of people have died. And it's a prophecy that can come true if we continue to wait as we are waiting.
Hold for me, Erastus. I'll come back to you in just about a minute or two so we wrap the conversation. Mr. Kwachi, you just heard Erastus as Haridonko. He's been engaging you, and we hope that prediction does not come true. We don't want to be prophets of doom, but we must also face the reality. So I ask you, between now and let's say the close of this week and moving forward, as head of the MUSEC, the Municipal Security Council, what is your plan? What is your strategy? What are you going to be doing? Engaging Northern Ashanti mining, engaging your people, and taking care of the municipality that has been entrusted to you. What can we expect from you, sir?
To tell you what we are going to do from today. But we are having a meeting Wednesday. Remember, I told you in connection with Udumase, the in-house mining situation. Like you are all aware, it has happened long time ago. As I speak to you, there is a committee that is initiated by the regional minister, and the committee is also sitting next week to see. In fact, there were some recommendations that were given that either the Northern Ashanti mines will resettle the areas, the affected areas, people living there, and the others. I will want to wait for us to meet and see the way forward. When we meet, whatever we are going to discuss, whatever is coming out of it, I am sure you all know, and then we take it from there. But as it stands, the MUSEC is doing what we have to do. We are doing everything possible to make sure that such incidents do not happen.
Mr. Kwache, we're very grateful that you took the time to join us this morning, and we wish you the very best, sir.
Thank you.
All right. That is Robert Kwache, MCE, Asante Achim Central. Erastus, you have the final word, and for me, I don't know, but it just keeps getting heartbreaking. It's heartbreak after heartbreak when we get these incidents happening? I mean, there's mining in South Africa, there's mining in Burkina Faso, there's mining in all these areas, but they found ways of dealing with them. They may not be perfect, but I look at our situation and it is far worse. Now we are talking of, if I'm not mistaken, the White Volta getting polluted. I mean, we're destroying everything. What will be your final words for us, Erastus?
Let me start with the young man, the third person. I saw him there. I don't know whether it was after we left that he went to the hospital, but he was as fit as a fiddle.
Okay.
Just that he was so spooked that he didn't even want to utter a word. And
he had a near-death experience.
Yes, he was so spooked. He was standing there, very fit. His colleagues were asking him to carry some of the materials they were gathering from the field. He wouldn't do so. He was just standing. I tried to speak to him many times, but he didn't utter a word. So that's the state of that young man. But to talk about the way we are handling illegal mining, I have heard in certain quarters that now government in certain areas are allowing these young people to mine this way because their fortunes, electoral fortunes, was affected in 2020, and they don't want a repeat of that in 2024. So now they are giving them the leeway to mine. And that is visible across all the areas we've been. When you go to the Wasa area, they are digging along main roads, they are digging in homes, they are using excavation in broad daylight, digging almost everywhere.
So you're suggesting, Erastus, that there is a tacit acceptance of this. We may be saying one thing for the cameras, but tacitly,
yes,
let the young people go and do what they will so that we can get political capital.
Perfectly.
That's what you're telling me.
Perfectly. And I have heard it in so many quarters. In fact, you have some government appointees telling me in the face that it affected their electoral fortunes when they tried to stop them. And so now the young people who are doing this type of mining to get something to eat, they don't want to trouble them. And to me, it's a confirmation on the ground, because wherever we have been, and I tell you, I have toured almost every part of Ghana where illegal mining is happening. And you see it everywhere. And it's happening full glare in the eyes of whoever is an authority, and nothing has been done about it. So we'll continue to hear such stories until we take a decision as a country, as a government, get the political testicular fortitude to say that this is affecting us and we need to stop it.
Erastus, whenever I interact with you, I just get so excited because of the work you do and what you're contributing to the media space and Ghana as a whole. God bless you, and keep up with the good work.
Thank you very much.
That is Erastus Asare-Donkor. He is an assisting editor at Love FM. This has been our conversation on illegal mining. Now we're cooking up something that will be serving you in the course of this week. I'll not tell you about it, but something must be done on some of these issues. But up next, we're going to be taking you to another aspect of our national life. It's that latest feature documentary by Jojo Kobina titled Thirsty Dams. Of course, the One Village, One Dam project took off, and then it sort of just tapered off till now. We'll be serving you that. But before we do, water is life. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. And don't worry, they have perfect sizes for everybody. The kids, are they going to school? 330 ml, they're good to go. 500 milliliters, 750 milliliters. There's 1.5 liters for those who want a whole lot more to drink, like I do. But if you're thinking of something for your office or your home, they have the perfect solution. 19-liter jar bottles that you can fix in your water dispensers, and you're good to go for the day. So why look anywhere else? Get Awake purified drinking water. And also remember, it is one for life. Every time you purchase a bottle of Awake purified drinking water, guess what? You are contributing You are helping them contribute to the kitty of the National Cardiothoracic Center. Now, you know heart disease, very expensive to treat. There are people out there who die every day because they don't have the funds. So by purchasing Awake Purified Drinking Water, you are helping such people. It's another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. To make bulk purchases, just call 0262 351 251. And remember, this advert is FDA approved. Now, talking water, thirsty dams, up next on the AM Show.
Water to the northerner is like blood. When we have water, we can do a lot of things for ourselves.
And without it, unemployment, poverty, and famine. To escape, many young people travel down south for supposed greener pastures. The NPP government provided a solution: one village, one dam.
The then candidates and then the running mates visited a chief in one of these villages and met the women digging the ground with their bare hands for water. So when they saw that, they said, well, when we come to power, we will provide you with water that can be better than what you are using your bare hands to construct. And that is how come the promise of one village, one dam.
I'm saying every village, one dam. One village, one dam.
The policy appealed to the people in the northern regions.
The government came here and told us that they will be giving us dam. And our people assured them that if they give them dam, they also let them laugh. And really, you can ask our assemblyman and even ask the NPP people what this community did for them. They voted massively for them.
It was a political promise that won the hearts and minds of the people. The dams should make it possible for farmers to farm all year round and break the cycle of waiting for the rains before cultivation. It was the reason why the people of Bongo sang and danced till they became drenched in sweat. When the president cut salt for the implementation of the project.
We have begun the One Village, One Dam initiative, and you here in Bongo can see for yourself that we have begun the initiative. It is our intention that Bongo alone will get 10 dams this year. 570 are being built. You heard the minister across the 3 northern regions, and Bongo constituency alone is going to get 10 out of that 570.
This campaign promise has been fulfilled. Well, but not quite.
Dam always takes us 2 months to dry up. Only 2 months? Only 2 months. October, November. The water dry up. November, like this, you see our pepper farm. You will like it. But where? No water again.
My name is Jojo Kobinan. It has been 5 years since the dams were constructed. My job here is simple. Find out how the dams are serving the people as it should and what concerns the people have. I hope governments will use the findings in this documentary to improve the current state of the dams.
Hello there. Thank you for staying on the AM show. I'm Bernice Abubedu-Lansa, and that was the excerpts of our latest Hotline documentary produced by our features editor, Jojo Kopena. And I know you want to hear and see more. And Jojo is here with me in studio. Hello, Jojo.
Hi, Bernice.
I love the name or the title of your documentary, Thirsty Dams. It paints such a vivid picture, right? It is what you call an irony, right? Or an oxymoron. Exactly. Thirsty dams. Tell me what inspired this particular documentary, and much more. We'll delve into what other details we'll be hearing when we join you at 8:30 to view it.
Well, the reason why I did this particular documentary is because of the enormity of this promise, and how this promise is actually a very great one. I have been traveling to the north many times. It's like
it's home to you, second home.
Someone actually said, "Are you sure that your father is not in North Nile and you're pretending to be from some other region?" So I see the challenges. I see the problems. When you get to, and then I grew up in between Adabaka, the railway line, all the way to. So I know the terrain, especially during the dry season, where you see many people from the northern regions flock. They come because they have nothing else to do. So that's where they come to come and carry stuff, to come and do many other things. And then when the rains start, that is where you see them go. So this particular policy, I remember when a government announced it, I was very excited about it. But in my journeys, doing other stories, I realized the people were complaining about the dam, that the dam doesn't last, that dam doesn't last. So I decided, okay, the best time to actually assess the dam is the dry season. So in the dry season, I actually waited till the end of the dry season to see. This was even April, so that I could actually get there and then see.
Right.
And I was not impressed with the one village, one dam. The dams were totally dry, parched, scorched, just like you can see behind you. The people too were very eager. Well, you could see it from their eyes. The people were very eager to plant, to do something for themselves, but they have no water.
So just so we lay the foundation right, someone may be wondering, but the dry season, of course, you expect that you wouldn't have a lot of rain, but that is the problem the dams were to solve, right?
Yes, that is the problem the dams are supposed to solve. And you see, in the northern region, it rains heavily. And then when the dry season is also very, very... So that's why it made a lot of sense to actually harvest the water, so that the water will not flood, it will rather gather at a central place so that the people can use it after the rainy season. So it was like the best decision, because during the normal season, you don't need irrigation, you don't need to water, because the rains will give you irrigation, water the crops and all that. Yeah. But now, the dry season is the best time to actually assess whether the work is actually happening, whether the dams that government constructed was working. And you could even hear in the sincerity of in the voice of the president, the sound clip that we just played. Yeah. The president was you could actually feel that he was excited that they had achieved something. It's just that what may be lacking is proper monitoring to make sure that how do we monitor, how do you evaluate this particular policy and make sure that the people benefit from it as they should? Right.
So in the conclusion of what we just watched, you mentioned that you hope that government will keenly watch this documentary, not necessarily, I believe, not necessarily with an eye to critique our work per se, but to learn what the challenges were. Without giving too much away, just let us know what you do exactly. So you've determined the problems. Who do you speak to? What are the key highlights? Without giving too much away, though, because we need to watch it at 8:30 later tonight.
No, with the key highlights, some of the people who were actually inspired by this particular one village, one dam, decided to do their own mechanized borehole, and they are getting a lot of money. Yes, they're getting a lot of money. And then in Nyole, it's not all negative. Nyole is in Wa West, Nyole Dam. We saw some women actually benefiting from the dam. That dam was really good. The Nyole Dam was really, it retained water. But the people still had problems with irrigation facilities. And so what they did was to borrow pumping machines, to lay cables. They contributed and then started doing their own thing. The whole irrigation facility, the government was supposed to install irrigation facilities. I mean, the pipes, so they can have a generator so they can actually water their crops. But unfortunately, it wasn't part of them. So those are, and I just wish that, yes, governments can critique the work. We are not above criticism.
Right.
I pray that they would it's a learning material. It's a feedback material. So they go there because the people are very eager. And if we are able to solve the problem of the one village, one dam, if the people are able to harvest water, you can imagine the wealth that they will be creating there. And so this documentary is not it's not meant to criticize, but you have to provide information to government so that they can go ahead and do something positive for the people. Because the people are really yearning to do something positive with their lives. They are very hungry to farm. In Kasanankana West, 68 of the people are into farming. And they produce a lot of food, tomatoes, many grains, rice. And imagine if all the dams worked, the food security would have created. Everything that the government had envisaged for this particular project would be realized. And the people would benefit, and we would all be very happy. And I'm sure the food prices would come down drastically, and we'd all be very happy. So we all, although we don't have dams here, those dams will benefit us nationally. And so that is the reason why we're very, very excited about this particular documentary.
Right. You just mentioned Sinyolo, right, which is
in Wa West.
Which is in Wa West, which has a different story because the dam there was, constructed well and is still functioning properly. What did you find to be the issue with some of these dams that went off? Was it a construction issue? Was it a siting issue? What exactly was it?
Okay, so some of the people, for example, I'll give it a Kari Dam, which is in the Talensi district. The Tendana is the spiritual head of the people. So he gave them a site. And ideally, he said no machine is supposed to dig at that site. That site, if you know that terrain very well, the Tongo Hills, behind the Tongo Hills. So, in geography, they receive a lot of rainfall. It happens. So, anytime it rains, the rains would come. It actually come from there. And then beneath the mountain, the hills, is a stream that links straight into a dugout. So that is a site that the Tendana chose for the people. That, okay, you use this particular site. And then they decided to go upstream rather. And so when it rains, that side doesn't collect enough. And then, as the people would say, the animals drank the water. And that was the end. But, so the people are saying, create a link from this. The ritual has been performed already for you to use your machines. Create a link between that old dugout into the bigger one, so that the water will always flow. So it's
like a natural waterway. So
exactly.
It's automatically collects.
But so the people felt that the man didn't listen to them, and so they were not surprised that it failed. Yeah.
Interesting.
So the people know the terrain. Bilimbisi, for example, was a place that was excavated for construction of roads, and so that area alone has gathered enough water. But the one village, one dam in Bilimbisi doesn't gather water. So you can imagine the people really knew exactly the areas where some contractors listened and did that. Others did not. Others decided to do whatever they wanted to do, and the people are not very happy, and so they're not really surprised that the dams are failing. But I think that the dams must work. That's the thing. The dams must really work.
And there's also the angle of the huge investments that were made, and whether people should be dragged, before the courts to answer why they should not be punished for causing financial loss.
Yes, and government must lead the way. Government must lead the way, because you design a project, and then you have a consultant, you pay the consultants money, and then you have the project engineers and then the contractors working on it, and then you've paid the money. So government said they were going to spend 250,000 cedis on one at least. But we realized that they actually spent more. That is in part two of this is just the part one.
The first part.
The first part. Part two, we'll get into the financials, we'll get into other details. We'll also get to hear from the Special Development Initiative. I mean, they have a responsive documentary in the second part. And so all these things will come out. You can imagine the monies that have been sunk into this particular dam, and the dams are dry. It's as if when the money was paid to the contractors and they spent it, it also went with the dams going dry. It's quite interesting.
Well, so it's 8:30 p.m. tonight, right, on television. So you just want to keep that reminder on your phone or anywhere. You need to watch this because, like Jojo is saying, you may think that, oh, this is not located in my community, so I mean, I'm not interested. You should be interested because the funds that were used to create the dams belong to all of us, and the benefits, like he has outlined, are for the entire nation. So it's a documentary you should watch. When else can we catch it? The first part, I mean, on which platforms?
Tomorrow too, we'll be showing it at 6:30, also on the Joy News channel. And then the audio version is actually airing on Joy FM as we speak.
Okay.
And then it will be on our social media platform. It will also be online, and so
on YouTube.
On YouTube, so you don't have any excuse not to catch it. It's everywhere. You can tell us where you want, and I can actually bring it so that you can actually watch it.
Yeah. But let me ask you, Jojo. Anytime you go around doing these communities, doing these stories from these communities, what is the thing that gives you joy the most?
Okay. In this job sometimes can be very hard, and sometimes it gets tiring, and then you feel burnt out. And then let me tell you, this Saturday, someone called me and told me that, at the end of the month, we are sending a whole truck of furniture to one of the schools that you featured in the Ghana's Schools of Shame. And so we want to go with you. And I had just woken up from sleep, and immediately the guy said that. I was tired, but I was so energized. I was so excited. I was like, wow. So that is the joy. The joy is when I go and see a problem, and then something happens. My biggest joy would be going to Ayopia Dam, going to Kajalo, going to Kari Dam, going to Nyole Dam, moving all around, going to the Gorogo Dam, all those dams that I captured, and then seeing that the dams are working. I mean, during the dry season, and the people are excited. I will be so excited. I mean, I wouldn't even want to take credit for it. I don't really care. It's government doing its job, and the people are excited. Main thing is, if government says something should be done, they should go the full mile, because I'm sure that the president really wanted this project to work. The vice president wanted this project to work. Everyone wanted the project to work. So if it's not working, we must make sure that it works. What is very interesting, one of the dams, I mean, Kajalu, for example, the people predicted in 2019 that it would not work.
Wow. What's the basis of that prediction?
They said they wanted a thing widened, and then they wanted the embankment reinforced. So they talked about the challenges there and there. Nothing was done. And so in the document, I played back what the assemblyman said, Hillary, what one of the chiefs said, what we are seeing, we've seen dams in our part of, but this doesn't look like the dam that will be very useful to us. And if authorities had listened and called the contractor and insisted that please fix the dams, I'm sure we would not be having this discussion today. And then there's another interesting thing. We also have one district, one warehouse, which will come out soon, and the regulations there too is also very interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
So please join us at 8:30 p.m. later tonight on this same channel. If that time doesn't favor you, don't worry. At 6:30 tomorrow on the same channel, we will be showing Thirsty Dams, or if you prefer an audio version, it's airing now on the Super Morning Show, Joy 99.7, or if you prefer to watch it on any social media platform, it's also available. Just get onto our Facebook page, Joy News on TV, and watch Thirsty Dumped. Let's build conversations around these important features and documentaries that we produce here. So like Jojo said, we can see results. Jojo, thank you so much. Jojo is our features editor here at Joy News, and he's been doing such a wonderful job bringing us stories from many parts of the country that a lot of people don't focus on. And today we're excited to bring you Thirsty Dams. It's 8:30 p.m. later today. Well, when we come back, we'll be having a conversation with the Campus Association of Students with Special Needs. You want to stay for that.
Everyone is expected to go by this directive in order not to incur the wrath of the gods. If you are a stranger passing through the town with your dogs, we will allow you to go. But to stay in this town with your dogs, the village folks will kill them. As for me, I would have preferred to keep dogs because they can be used for security at home and hunting. But our elders are insisting we go by the instructions of the gods, and we can't do anything about it. The deity led this town from its inception, and that is what it dislikes.
In the eastern region town of Enum, you may never hear the barking of a live dog. If you ever do, it may either be from your television or an audio recording. Moving around the town, you will find cats, goats, and other animals. But for dogs, no way. The reason is simple. Keeping dogs, for whatever reason, will be a breach of custom because of a century-long held belief that the gods of the land hate the presence of other dogs. The gods believe Enum already has spiritual dogs guarding the town. Hence, a physical one is not needed. Residents here like Kofi has a desire to keep dog for hunting and security at home. However, the fear of divine punishment as well as the disapproval of the town's revered elders has compelled him to conform to the customs.
As for me, I would have preferred to keep dogs because they can be used for security at home and hunting. But our elders are insisting we go by the instructions of the gods, and we can't do anything about it.
Ejayao, another resident, holds a firm belief that the people of Enum have no choice but to honor the gods by being obedient. He sees the prohibition on dogs as an expression of gratitude for the gods' unwavering protection over the town throughout history.
The deity led this town from its inception, and that is what it dislikes. So we have no option but to go by his instructions.
The views of Kobina, who also lives in Enum, are not different from Ejayao and Kofi because he sees the prohibition on dogs as a preservation of their cherished history and honoring the legacies of their ancestors. The prohibition on dogs in Enum has become deeply part of the lives of the town's inhabitants, shaping their way of life and their understanding of the divine order. But what lay at the heart of this intriguing custom? Kofi Osai, the revered Asafwache of the Nimfa division in the Num traditional area, explains.
The reason we don't keep dogs in this town is because our deity guards the people with his own dogs. He dislikes the barking of other dogs who may see him patrolling the town at night and prefers to operate in silence without attracting any attention. That is why community members have been instructed not to keep dogs in this town.
Na say bia oye bribi wo kuro no ma emba say ebe call nipa bi attention say ebia bribi say ekoso anado e wo kuro no mu onu nti na omonfa yemma kraman emba kuro no.
But what fate awaits those who unknowingly send dogs into a Num town? The Asafwache, Kofi Osai, explained that such individuals will be required to undergo a ceremonial purification process intended to appease the gods and re-establish harmony within the community. In the worst situation, one could be attacked by community members for disrespecting their customs.
Everyone is expected to go by this directive in order not to incur the wrath of the gods. If you are a stranger passing through the town with your dogs, we will allow you to go. But to stay in this town with your dogs, the village folks will kill them. Dogs from nearby villages are not even allowed here.
Because the next town, omunya nkrama wa nkrama so timi ko fa bet ye hu krama bia wo krom ha ye kuno.
You may have a legal right to keep a dog, but in a Num, you may have to battle the people and culture to have one. So, if you plan on driving through a Num with a dog in your vehicle, remember that the people who revere this custom will not welcome you. Would you insist on your right and end up in the police station or courtroom to assert your right, or would simply stay away from a Num with your dog? Joy News, Samuel Mbura, a Num, Eastern Region.
Thank you so much for staying. Like I said, we will have a couple of interviews. I'll be bringing you that one on the Association of Students Living with Disabilities much later. But it's time to have a very important conversation about privatization of education. This is an interesting one because as a group, right, or there is a campaign against privatization and commercialization of education, and it's called CAPCOI, and it's been partnering different agencies, the Education International, that's the EI, and the Frederick Egbert Stiftung Foundation, to advocate for improvement and expansion in public education infrastructure. And you know why? Obviously, because we're talking quality, we're talking about equity, we're talking about accessibility for all children. And this morning I've been joined by Richard Kwasi-Kover. He is on my far left. He is the convener of CAPCOI, and Dennis Sinyolo is on my immediate left. He's Educational International Africa Regional Director. Great to have you here, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you. Now, I mean, just thinking about the whole concept, right? About campaigning against the privatization of education. Mr. Kover, do you mind telling us what this is all about, how long you've been working, and what your dream is?
Yeah, so, you know, it all started as far back in 2000 when we have our country's ratified education for all goals. And it was supposed to be, that concept is supposed to end in 2015. But after the assessment, most countries couldn't meet the targets. So it is really profile into what we now call Sustainable Development Goals. So for education, we are looking at Goal 4. Now, after this, what that want to say, every single child born on the surface of the earth is supposed to have access to at least basic education. And then because not all of us will have the opportunity or the means to educate our children in very expensive private schools, the states, through, let's look at Ghana, our constitution, Article 25(1)(a), talks about the part that the states has a sole responsibility of making sure every single Ghanaian have access to education. And so based on that, then when you come to 2, then the 25(2) is also talking about the giving the opportunity to individuals to also provide education at a fee. So, but then that should also be done within the regulatory frameworks. So what we've noticed along the line is that because the Constitution makes provision for private participation in education delivery, government begins to see that as its main responsibility to the private sector.
Right.
So if you observe last year, if you monitor, Ghana Statistical Service put out a report that says in Ghana we have over 1.2 million Ghanaians between the ages of 4 to 18 who have never been enrolled in any school. That's very worrying. Then apart from that, we did some monitorings. That also shows that we have about 150,000 children who drop out of school, and then on annual basis. And then on daily basis, we have about 30 people dropping out of school. That's what the study that we did in 2021. It was Africa Education who did the study for us. So if you have a country and we are talking about productivity, we are now in economic distress, and then you have this chunk of your population that not having access to education, definitely what it means is that you are not going to achieve your there's going to be suffering. So basically the concept, we are not necessarily saying that they should close down every private school in Ghana, no. The concept is the government should not sit its core responsibility of making sure every Ghanaian has access to education to the private sector.
Right.
And so when we look at our study again, between 2008 and 2018, private schools increased by 98%. As again, 13% probably. The government also able to put on a percentage basis 13% school within that 10-year period. What private schools grew by this. Now, when you ask the policymaker, they tell you, oh, we don't have space and land to build school, but the private person is getting land every day to put up school. Even they're able to put up school on one plot. And then, so if the state who has all this at its disposal, it can even do have what you call compulsory acquisition of land when they see the need for this. Then you notice that most of the newly developing areas, you go to Kaswa area, you go to Gan West, Gan South, and all across the country, the lands that were reserved for very good.
I'll come back to you shortly, but let me find out from Mr. Sinyolo, because you have a wider view than just Ghana, right? You are with the Education International Africa. Tell me what you also do and how it feeds into CAPCO's whole agenda.
Yes, thank you for having me. First of all, let me briefly tell the audience who Education International is. We're the Global Federation of Education Unions. Our members are teacher unions and unions of education support professionals. We have 32.5 million members globally in 178 countries through our national affiliates. Therefore, the teacher unions in Ghana are part of this umbrella body called Education International.
Right.
Now, coming specifically to your question, Education International advocates for quality public education. We believe very seriously that every child and every young person should have access to quality public education. Why is that so? As Richard said earlier, it's important to recall the commitments made by our governments, including the government of Ghana through the United Nations in 2000, in 2015 specifically, where they committed to provide free and compulsory quality education of at least 12 years. That includes minimum at least 1 year of pre-primary education, and then free primary and free secondary education. It's a global commitment by our governments.
So the reason we call upon the government of Ghana and upon all governments in Africa to do this is because we care so deeply about our students.
Right.
We care so deeply about human rights. So that's why we're calling upon them to invest in education. Now, we do several things as Education International. We work with our member organizations in various countries around the globe and in Africa to make that call for quality public education. We also engage in various activities, including capacity building, including research. We support our colleagues in Ghana to carry out research. For example, the research that Richard was talking about, we were collectively involved, at least in funding it from our perspective.
Right.
And then we organize various workshops, conferences, and so on to create a platform for education unions from Africa or from any other part of the world to come together and share experiences.
All right. Mr. Sinyolo, so to the heart of the conversation, which is about pushing for better public education when it comes to quality, access, and everything. When I was growing up, I had stories of the generations before me and how, during their time, public education was the preferred form of education, because then you knew that you were getting the best of teaching, the best of logistics, the best of everything. But along the line, it began to shift. So now you realize that in private schools, children are usually given the very best form of education and exposed to, the most modern trends and all that. As Education International, you've just spoken about research, but have you cared to find out what caused that shift and what the remedy to the problem is, based on what you discovered as the major, changing factor?
Yeah, first of all, we've done a lot of research to compare the performance of private and public schools, by the way. We've done this in Liberia, in Kenya, and Uganda, and other places. If you account for home background and the provision of resources, infrastructure, teachers in a school, there's no difference, by the way. So what has gone wrong is simply because our governments have not been investing sufficiently in public education. Class sizes are just too large for teachers to be able to meet the individual needs of students. Infrastructure is very poor. Here in Ghana, you have children learning under trees or in temporary structures. That's not acceptable in the 21st century. Surely, children will be exposed to the elements of weather. If it's raining or it's windy, it's hot, it will be difficult to continue learning under those circumstances. So the bottom line is that governments are not investing sufficiently in education. There are international benchmarks for financing education. For example, within the UN system, a government must invest a minimum of 20% of its national budget in education, or at least 6% of gross domestic product, GDP. But how does the government of Ghana measure up? The government of Ghana is investing 12.9% instead of 20%. So if the government of Ghana were to increase investment in education, that would unlock more resources to build more schools, provide adequate infrastructure, probably not adequate, but at least substantial improvements in infrastructure, teaching and learning resources, but also to support teachers through training and professional development.
Right. So let me come back to you, Mr. Covey. There's also the issue of low fee for profit schools, and it's something you're also campaigning against. So first off, I'd just like for you to explain to us what low fee for profit schools are and why you think that they shouldn't exist.
Yeah, so before I come to your question, let me say CAPCO is, like Director said, it's made up of the teacher unions here in Ghana. So it's a coalition, and then civil society organizations. So we have it's a big coalition. Yeah, so when we started our campaign, that was far back in 2015, we noticed that instead of the donor partners, if you remember 2019, just recently, USAID put up a report where they assert that communities in the northern part of Ghana want their children to go to low-cost profit schools, what they call low-fee for profit schools. So instead of supporting the states to invest heavily in education, they are rather now channeling their resources to individuals. So what we are going to see is that it's a concept developed by one professor, Nicholas Tully of Buckingham University, that says that you can make money out of the poor. So those schools are not there to assist, to support the people there to access education, but they're there to make profit out of them. That is a concept we are against. Because if you, as a donor, instead of supporting the states and monitoring and making sure the right things are done, you are now channeling your resources, and you make our government sign for free universal basic education. Then you go behind and now finance an individual to sell education to the poor, not even the rich, the poor. That is an injustice. So that is why our one of the key areas we are looking at. So any school being sponsored by a donor partner through funding, we have World Bank is financing some of these individuals. Global Partnership for Education, they're all beginning to channel their resources to that plan under the guise of the people want private school. But then when we did a study far back in 2015, even before this, we used to have what we call the Omega Schools franchise. If you look at the way the school is run, if you do not have money today, you are not supposed to come to school. What happened to the child's learning? So anytime you come to school, you have to pay the arrears. For those days you are not even in school, you still have to pay for the arrears. So it's an exploitation.
Right. So this clearly means that it comes to the feet of government and making public school enticing enough, making public school available enough. So, Mr. Sinyolo, for you, you just told us about your partnerships with CAPCO and other teacher unions here in Ghana and across Africa. But have you been engaged in governments as well? Have you engaged the government of Ghana, for example? You just mentioned about the issue of children schooling under trees. Recently, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, not too recent though, some children died in an unfortunate incident where the school collapsed on them. And we have schools that look like they're going to fall any moment from now. What has been your engagement with our government and other governments across the region?
Yes, thank you very much. Let me start with other governments. In fact, like I mentioned earlier on, we've done work in Kenya, we've done work in Uganda. In fact, in Uganda, the president himself of the country, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, attended our event. So Bridge International Academies, who were running schools there, were recruiting unqualified teachers, and they brought a curriculum from the United States, which is not acceptable because the curriculum should be rooted in the local context. So we were able to challenge that, working with the government, and the government was able to close some of the bridge schools from 36 to 3 now as we speak. Similarly, in Kenya, the government actually, looking at the research studies we've carried out, they were not aware before. They visited schools to find out, the ministers visited schools to find out what was happening in these schools. They were shocked by the quality of infrastructure that was provided. Teachers were working using tablets, just like machines, just reading a lesson in front of children. So that deprofessionalizes them. So similarly in Liberia, we worked with the government to push back on the privatization of the public education system. So we've made good progress. Coming to Ghana, yes, we've engaged with the authorities. We've engaged even with the Honorable Minister of Education on the 22nd of June. We had a meeting here in Accra, where we're looking at the challenge of privatization, but talking about the importance of investing in public education. And the minister was the keynote speaker at that event. He agreed with us. Yes, but what we're looking for really is not just a verbal agreement, it's action on the ground. Agree, yes, but take a step further, take concrete legislative action.
Do you see that happening?
In Ghana or elsewhere?
In Ghana.
Where there is a will, there's a way. So we need political will and commitment from the government. I know that the government would say, oh, there is no money because we've even borrowed from the IMF and recently from the World Bank, which brings its own problems, by the way, because that money comes with conditions. But sticking on this particular subject, what we are saying is that actually out of the little that you have, give education a fair share, which is minimum 20%, not 12.9%.
Interesting. So, Mr. Yu, for you, Mr. Covey, I mean, your name, right? Campaign against the privatization and commercialization of education. Just creates an outright impression that you're not for private schools at all, right? And I don't know how that will work. Or is it a case that you want a balance of the system? Because whether we like it or not, as things stand now, for many people, private schools are coming to the rescue. And unfortunately, I know you went beyond IMF and all that. We've seen with beyond education, it appears that for us here in Ghana, and I can speak for Ghana because this is where I live and what I know, you realize that when private people handle businesses that sometimes were being handled by government, it does better. Recently, we said we're going to sell assets of 17 state-owned enterprises, right? And then you see that when a private person handles it, it gets better. So why don't we think more of a measure, or when it comes to education, it must be public, and that's what you're solely rooting for?
Yeah, so education basically is a public good. It's not a commodity that's supposed to be put out there on the market for people to buy.
Right.
And then if you look at the poverty level in Ghana, if you want to commercialize education in terms of, because it's of quality. But first of all, let me ask, why is it that everybody would prefer to go to Achimota, Pre-Circle, Pre-College, other than maybe in Sawam Senior High School or any other? Is the infrastructure and the resources available? You get it? So in a learning environment, the child should be exposed to every distance to explore and develop his or her potential. So if the learning environment is under three, what are the potentials that the child is going to derive? When the structure is not there, they are congested in the classroom. How do they get that exposure? So if our campaign is to make government turn its focus on improving basic education. Now, you could see that when they introduce the free SHS, basic education is totally forgotten. The only time you talk about it is when they write the BEC and then they are doing analysis. Then we say, then after that we go back. Look at the education subset as a basic education subset of even the 12.9% that was allocated for this, about 16%. The chunk is going for a free senior high school and then the tertiary institutions. Now, if every child between the ages of 0 and 10, that's where a lot of skill, language, and this, that's where we can form the character, the right behaviors that we want as a country. So if you leave them under the mercy of the weather and then they struggle their way through and then they get to this, before we say we are doing sensitization, conscientizing them against bad, immoral, this and all that, definitely it's not going to work because they have already formed that bad behavior and they are comfortable with it.
Right. Mr. Sinyolo, do you want to take, sorry to interrupt, we just need to start wrapping up any moment from now, but Mr. Sinyolo, do you want to take a bite of that as well? What exactly are we asking? He has just said education is not a commodity, it's for public good, but it is a necessity, and because people understand the importance of education, they're willing to part ways with sometimes huge sums of money to give their children the foundation. And we're talking about basic education here, which is also very vital because, and you spoke about Achimota and all, because many people would push their children into private basic schools and then don't mind if they go to public high schools or public universities because they know that once my child has a good foundation, I'm okay. Are we asking for balance here? Or do you totally agree with Mr. Covey that no privatization of industrialization?
Yes, definitely we agree. Don't forget, education is a basic human right and a public good. And our governments, including the government of Ghana, have committed to provide free and compulsory education for all of at least 12 years. So that commitment is essential. It must be fulfilled. In fact, the government of Ghana has been one of the, at least verbally, one of the proponents of quality public education, even financing education, supporting the Global Partnership for Education. So what we're calling for really is for governments to meet their commitments. On the 24th of January this year, Education International launched a campaign called Go Public Fund Education, Go Public Fund Education. So through this campaign, we'll be calling upon governments in Africa and around the world to invest in education. In fact, we're working with the African Union. Right. You probably know that 2024 has been designated the Year of Education by the African Union. So we will be working with them to draw the attention of governments to invest in education, in teachers, and education support personnel.
So, I mean, in wrapping up, which ones should be tackled immediately? Because, you know, sometimes it gets very complex and complicated. So there's the issue of textbooks, there's the issue of infrastructure, there's the issue of quality of teachers. We recently started our licensure exams, and that has raised a whole lot of conversation about if teachers cannot do basic, you know, math and answer basic questions on logic, what are they teaching the children? So it's a myriad of issues. Which ones should be tackled first?
Well, research evidence is very clear. The most important in-school determinant of educational quality is the teacher. So it's important for the government to guarantee a qualified, a trained, and highly motivated teacher for every student. But also within that context, let's not forget about the school as an environment. So it's important to assure a quality school for every Ghanaian child. So it's all the factors really combined, but the teacher is the most important.
Right. For you, Mr. Kobe?
Yeah, so there are all necessary conditions. The teacher is very important, just here, number one. Then if you have qualified teachers, and then they're there, and then the learning. Today we are in a advanced this in 21st century where we are shifting away from our traditional occupations, which is now being run by technology and everything. So if we have to also catch up with the rest of the world, and then make our learners productive, economically productive, it means that one immediate effect, you have to start working on the learning environments. And I think apart from what the director said, what you should also be looking at is developing a roadmap that is smart.
Right.
So that if we cannot do all this year, but this year we are tackling this number, it should be consistent.
Okay.
That is why CAPCO and other partners are calling for decapping of the GET fund.
Okay.
Very, very important. Okay. Because that is the sole source of education financing for education infrastructure, and then it has been capped at 17%.
So those
the total accruals outcome, you give 17% to education sector, and then you invest the rest in other sectors of the education. And then the children are languishing in the bush somewhere, some are not even having access to education. That is not a reasonable thing to do, because those who framed that came up with the idea of setting up a fund to finance education infrastructure, they saw that by this time the population will grow by this rate, and so there's a need for that. But then we are not taking the money to go and invest in other things. So definitely we are killing the population.
So those are the other things that you're doing to advance your campaign for.
Yes. So I think next year we're going to scrutinize the political party manifestos very well. Right. Most of our public engagement, we look at what we have, the various parties. So as they are preparing their political party manifestos, with the unions, the CAPCO, through CAPCO and this, we're going to have public debate on this. What do you have for education? How smart is it? How feasible is it? It's not just going to be a promise and then you yes.
But what about you, Mr. Sinyolo? Education International Africa. What more are you doing to advance your work in Ghana?
Yes, several things. One, of course, this campaign which we are supporting, but we have also supported a number of other activities. Some of them are still ongoing. For example, we have a program which we call Teacher Learning Circles, which brings together teachers from across the country to learn from each other, looking, for example, at formative assessment. So this type of assessment is diagnostic, so they are to identify the challenges faced by learners or students and then come up with solutions together collectively as teachers. To us, that's an important program because it can help improve teaching and learning. We have also been running a program on social dialogue. So it's a capacity building program, bringing the teacher unions together, but also the education officials so that they can sharpen and share skills on how to improve engaging with each other to improve education policy. And then related to that, there was an important program which is still ongoing actually, which we call the Education Workforce Initiative. It started from the Education Commission of the United Nations, and then in Africa there are 2 countries. They focused on Ghana and Sierra Leone. Therefore, in that context, EI Africa has been funding that program, bringing together teacher unions as well as various government agencies to come and dialogue about education policy.
I really appreciate your time here this morning, and hopefully you'll be able to do some good work like the testimonies you've shared from other African countries. You'll be able to share those same testimonies when we have you again sometime in the future. That was Dennis Sinyolo. He is Regional Director of Education International Africa, and he was here with Richard Kwashikove. He is convener a campaign against privatization and commercialization of education. CAPCO. We'll take a quick breather here. We need to sip on some water. When I come back, I've got more to share with you. Do stay. Thank you for staying. I'm still having a conversation on education, but this time I've been joined by some wonderful students of the University of Ghana, a lady and a gentleman, and they belong to the Campus Association of Students with Special Needs, CASN, and they're here to talk about the CASN Fest, which is the festival which will be happening from the 19th to the 22nd of July. Lois Biama Abena Ampofo is PRO of the Campus Association of Students with Special Needs, and Benjamin Melish Ejapong is president of CASN. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. How are you?
Thank you, we are good.
All right, it's good to have you here. Thank you so much for gracing my studios with your very wonderful presence. So let me start with you, Benjamin, and tell us more about this association, right? Is it one you came to meet in school, or you created it yourself?
Okay, so a wonderful morning to your cherished viewers. And CASN, the Campus Association of Students with Special Needs, is an association which was established somewhere 2007 in the University of Ghana. It wasn't very active then, but as we progressed, we realized that we had to intensify our activities so as to create awareness to the general public and the university community that we as well are capable and we have a lot of potentials in us, and when we are given the opportunity, we can thrive and even do better than some of our abled colleagues.
Right.
So that's how come the whole idea came about.
All right.
So it's a mouthpiece to discuss and then push for our interests. I mean, persons with disabilities, special needs students.
I love that. So as you may tell, Benjamin is blind, and but Lois's special need or I don't want to use the word disability. Let me just stay with special needs. Lois's special need is not one that's so visible like Benjamin's. She's got mobility issues, right? Yes. So tell me, Lois, you speak for this association, and Benjamin has just told us what it is about and it being a mouthpiece. Just tell me how it has been like for you working together in school, making sure your voice is heard. Much later, I'll come to the challenges and successes that you've chalked.
I also joined the association somewhere in level 100 year. I didn't know there was anything like Campus Association of Students with Special Needs. And I didn't even know there was an office of students with special needs. So I was thinking, coming to the university, I have mobility issues. I have a back pain and a leg pain, which affects my mobility. So when I walk for some time, I get tired and all that. But it's not clearly visible unless you observe me for some time. Yeah, so when I was coming to university, I was thinking about going to lectures and those mobility issues where you have to walk around, struggle, and if so with the dormitory, if I'll be given up bed, down bed, whatsoever. So upon knowing there's an office of students with special needs at the University of Ghana where they provide services for students who have such needs, I got to get some privileges, and there's a bus which takes us to class as and when it's available. Right. So as a special need in the traditional halls, there's a policy that the inner rooms are designated for students with special needs. So with that, my dormitory issue is taken away. Yeah, and it's been nice working with them. I mean, I didn't even get to know much about visually impaired and other disabilities. So being part of the association has really helped me learn more about them, how to relate with them, and it's been nice.
All right, Benjamin. Yeah. So I can see a laptop in front of you. Do you mind opening it? Just, if you can, just demonstrate to us. Okay, so it's got the regular keypad like I see it, but I'm sure you can feel the braille on it, right?
No, we don't have any braille. It's just like any ordinary laptop.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So how do you use it then? Because what I know is that usually for persons with, visual impairments like yourself. Sorry, I'm turning the laptop actually. All right, sorry. Okay, so it's a normal laptop, right? I've turned it because I just want everyone to see what it looks like. But how do you use this? How are you able to use it properly?
Okay, thank you. So, like we said, there are so many things people are ignorant about when it comes to us. Because of modernity and then technology, now we're able to use just any smartphone and then laptop as anyone uses.
Mm.
All we need to do is to download a speech software. So if you look at this one, I have a speech on it.
Okay.
Windows sign in
So
dialog.
you can hear that.
Yeah.
So when I type anything, it just mentions it.
Start.
Okay.
Welcome.
But how do you know what you're typing?
Okay.
Start.
Okay. So I was reading.
Okay. Okay. So you're a law student.
Yes, I am.
Benjamin is a law student. So I see
level 400.
Level 400 law student. I see jurisprudence.
Yes.
Marxist theory of law and state. So the speech software reads it out to you.
Everything.
What about when you're typing for your assignments? It's the same.
Yeah, it's the same. So when I press A, it will give me the sound A. So easy. Easy. So whatever you do, the speech gives you a feedback.
Okay, so it's still reading out.
Yes, it reads everything.
Okay.
So, let's say I want to type.
No, wait. Before we get to the speech, because I am very curious, right? Because I see you press did somebody take you through what the keys represent and everything? Because I'm just wondering, how do you know this is the space button? How do you know this is the home button?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you see, I went through the system from Ekropon School for the Blind.
Okay.
Up there.
Okay.
Continued my education at Okwapman Senior High School, Ekropon Ekwapem, where I graduated. So in School for the Blind, because we are all visually impaired, we have an IT lab and we have trained resource persons in special education and IT training. So they understand us and they are able to take us through what it takes to you. So he would tell you, for instance, kill. So this is kill. On top of, so under kill, you have A, then you have Z.
Yeah.
So when you're typing, you have that in mind.
Right.
So it's kind of...
So you have a mental picture of what it looks like.
Exactly.
Fantastic. And I see you also have a phone, right?
I do.
You also have the software on the phone?
Yes. In fact, any phone, as for the phone, it's even easier.
Right.
If you have an iPhone here, you can just go to settings, accessibility.
Right.
You would see voiceover. You just turn it on.
Mm.
Automatically, the pop-up will come and then you hear the voice.
Right.
You don't need any special phone.
Okay.
Just any ordinary phone.
Wonderful.
Any ordinary phone.
I'll come for you to say, because I see that you're very excited when I talk about the fact that you're a law student. I'll be asking you what your dream and your vision is. But let me come to you, Lois. You have a bus that you use when it's available to help you move from your halls to your lecture halls. But what are some of the challenges, real challenges that you encounter, and how do you overcome them?
With a bus specifically?
No, generally your stay in school or even life.
So generally, not only me, but speaking on behalf of all physically challenged, specifically at the University of Ghana, some of the lecture halls are not really disability friendly. Yeah, that's how it was structured. Some do not have elevators. Like the law school, they have an elevator, but then some wouldn't have that. So climbing up the stairs and all that becomes quite a challenge for physically challenged people. And also when the bus is not available or when there is no means of transport, or if you don't have a friend who can assist you, it becomes a big challenge going to a lecture hall. Aside that, if there's more accessibility, if the structures are more disability friendly, if I'm able to get transport to class with that, I'm okay. Yeah.
Right. So Benjamin, what about you? What have the challenges been and how do you overcome them?
Okay, so challenges. Since she addressed that of the physically challenged, that will come to the visually impaired and then maybe the hearing impaired. So you see, apart from the mobility issues, we also have our mobility issues because you see, the university wasn't, constructed or built with us in mind. So there are gutters, but University of Ghana is quite better. The road network is good, and so that is one challenge, how to get to another place. Sometimes there are vehicles parked on the road, you end up bumping into them.
Yeah.
But a major challenge for us as visually impaired and then hearing impaired and then all other disabled persons is the exorbitant prices of assistive devices. So for instance, this laptop is a normal laptop. My laptop is sports. And you know, to get a laptop now is like 5,000 cedis or something. People use the calipers, wheelchairs, prosthetics, those who have mobility issues, the hearing aids, and then visually impaired, some use recorders, and then other issues, the white cane, the mobility cane. These things are very, very, very expensive. The braille devices, those who still use braille, the hand frame, the stylus, the Perkins braille are very, very expensive. So that is the major challenge. So there are students on campus now who even do not have laptops. And to be a student on the University of Ghana campus without a laptop, being a visually impaired, basically, I don't know how to describe it. It's unthinkable. Because we have the office there. So once you have the laptop, you take the books to them, you purchase the books, you take it to them, they scan them in readable formats, and then copy them on the PCs for you.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I was going to ask, because some of your law books, I was just wondering if you have e-versions of them, because I doubt there will be e-versions of them. So this is how you do it. You buy the book, and then you get them to be scanned and put on your laptop or your devices. Right. So you've just spoken about a very important issue, having financial support for persons with disability or special needs. As CASNET, do you have any form of funding support for yourself and your colleagues? Or the school handles that entirely?
That has been very challenging. In fact, since I assumed office as president, I've written to a number of corporate organizations. But you see, they also have their budget. So sometimes you go and then they are like, oh, this area, sorry, we cannot help. I personally have written to computer companies who can maybe support us with laptops, mobile phones, Wi-Fi, and those things. But it's been difficult. We've not received any support as we speak, apart from the support we receive from the university through the Office of Students with Special Needs. Support outside is quite difficult. And like I said, our things are very expensive and difficult to come by.
So, I mean, this is a channel that believes in making impact, right? Quite recently, we had our Impact Makers Awards, and I know there are people watching us who would want to support. How do they get in touch with Kassan, and who do they call? How do they get through to you if they have any donations to make? How exactly do they do that? Since you're the PRO, let me ask you, Lois.
Okay, so they can reach us via email.
Can you speak up a bit?
I can put our email out there.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can text us or anything. And it's CASSN at st.ug.edu.gh. That's our email.
That's quite a long one. Can you say it again?
CASSN at st.ug.edu.gh.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want to reach us personally,
right?
They can call us. But that's still, they can call us.
Yeah.
And that's my personal number: 0248 319095. 0248 319095.
Right.
Yeah, and mine is 055 3526312.
Right.
055 3526312.
So that's how you can contact Benjamin and Lois, and they are very wonderful people. As you can see, they're not allowing their special needs or challenges to, keep them in their corners. They are out hoping to make an impact, hoping to make a difference. And they are with the Campus Association of Students with Special Needs at the University of Ghana. They're organizing a festival, Kassan Fest, which is happening from the 19th to the 22nd of this month. So what are the activities outlined? Benjamin.
Okay, so we will have a launch of the program, an official launch, God willing, this Wednesday.
Okay.
From 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the University of Ghana SRC Union Conference Hall. So on Thursday, we are hoping to have a health screening and then a special program for the ladies. A talk on relationships, self-esteem, and
why only that for the ladies? Oh, because the guys also need a conversation on relationship and self-esteem.
In our assessments, we realized that some of us I have seen before. So you see, when a situation comes up, it's a bit difficult for you to even accept. And the family, friends, and all that, the ladies are basically not really strong to accept and then move on. So even if you look at the percentage of persons with disability schooling, I think the guys are much more than the ladies. So I think they need the encouragement and push more. So the guys as well, we would encourage them, but I think that we need to pay particular attention to our ladies.
All right, you just said something that piqued my interest. Let me just quickly spend a minute. You used to see, what happened? How did you lose your vision?
Okay, so I'm in Dansoman. So for everyone who knows Dansoman, they know that I have school at Bitom, Arima area and all that. So you see, when I was growing up, mine didn't just come. I don't even know what happened, but it started gradually. I realized that I couldn't see as I used to be. So I complained to my teacher, I was in class 3 or so by then, that when I sit at the back, you see boys are normally a bit notorious and you want to be at the back.
Yeah.
But I realized I had to strain my eye in order to see. So the teacher made the necessary because I was quite brainy, I was good. So brought me in front and then it was better. Then still, I realized that no, even in front, I was still lose. So they had to get someone to sit by me, then be helping me with what was on the board. So the teacher had to call my parents and then tell them that no, the situation is getting out of hand and then they may have to seek medical attention. So that was where they started the Emmanuel High Clinic or Lebu everywhere. I went to churches, I don't know. So
but what were you told?
Later they said it was maculitis. So they say there is a vein in the eye that holds the eyeball, that is called the macula. So if it does not develop fully, it has a ripple effect on the side. So it loses its strength as you grow. And so that's how come.
And this is irreversible?
It is reversible from what an Indian hospital told me, but it is very expensive, very, very. And it is not even 100% assured. I think it's 50-50 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're such a young, brilliant boy. I love listening to you. But Lois, you're also doing so well with your organization and what you're doing. Just tell us what you wish people who are not in your position will understand about you and your group, and what your aspirations are generally.
Okay, so there's still the stigma out there about persons with disabilities, and I believe the awareness isn't very strong. Perhaps if it could start from basic school where there's a curriculum personally for teaching students about persons with disabilities, where they get persons to share their experiences and all that, they will learn to live with them and accept them. That's one major challenge. And also, I know there are some people out there, let's say maybe SHS graduates whatsoever in school, wondering what they can do with themselves as they've graduated, thinking maybe university may not be the place for them because the services are not very right. I tell you, it's not true. If you come to the University of Ghana, for instance, or other universities, there are some services for students with special needs. So don't sit home and think there's nothing that can come out of you. You can come there and they will provide you with the services you need.
Wow.
For our association, we are hoping that with time it will grow and people will learn to understand that persons with disabilities are no different from others.
Wonderful. And to you, the future lawyer, Benjamin. Benjamin is in law school. And I really hope and pray that once you get the funds and you want to, reverse your condition, that you will be part of the 50 that can have it reversed. But I mean, I think that you have grown so well and you have, beating all the odds. Tell me what you want persons with disability to know, and also how you want us to treat you and what the future holds for you.
Okay, so I think Lois has said most of it, but
Right.
I would say that, like she said, there are services for you. So maybe there is someone out there, a parent, who has this child who is disabled, who cannot see, who cannot hear, who cannot speak. All hope is not lost. You can take them to the special needs schools, Mampong School of the Deaf, Mampong School for the Blind. There are a lot of schools for us. Give them the opportunity, give them what they need, the facilities, and we can equally do better.
Right.
Now, I think that we should be empathized with, not sympathized with. You see,
Okay.
most of us see our situation as a predicament which cannot be gotten out of.
Right.
And people even think that some of the disabilities we have are communicable.
Yeah, so they don't want to get
out
close.
To support you is
Yeah.
even a problem.
Yeah.
Unless they realize that okay, this guy is equally good, and then maybe if I get close, I would also benefit something.
Right.
So we think that they should treat us as their brothers and sisters. They should accept us as part of them.
Fantastic.
And then we are equally competent, and even sometimes we do better than them.
Right. So we're going to see you being called to the bar soon, right?
Yes.
All right.
We're going to write the entrance exams this year. So.
All right. We wish you all the best, Benjamin. That's Benjamin Melish Ejapong. He's president of the Campus Association of Students with Special Needs at the University of Ghana. And seated right next to him is Lois Biama Abena Ampofo. She's PRO of the same association. And they've been telling us about their festival coming out off on the 19th to the 22nd. If you missed any part of the show, you can just go back on Facebook or YouTube. They gave out their numbers on how you can support them and how you can reach out to them. Fantastic young people doing a lot of great work. Thank you so much for passing through. But that's how we end this edition of the AM show. It's been a pleasure having you. Before I go, let me say a very happy birthday to Professor Margaret Ivy Amwakohene. She's a member of the Council of State. God bless you. And tomorrow we have our Joy Business pre-budget forum, and it's on economic transformation. What should the policy direction be in the 2023 mid-year budget? That's a question we are asking. And wonderful people speaking to the issues. We have Professor Godfred Bopping, Dr. Humphrey Ayim Dake Joseph Obing, we've got Mark Bedua Boaji, we've got Yawa Pia Latte.